All right. You ready to start?
Yeah, we should have music again.
Yeah, do it.
What is up, team? And welcome back to another episode of the Technical Foul Podcast. You're joined by the three of us today. I'm Jack Anderson. To my right is JP Pusilowski. And to my left is Sanders Oakley. How are we doing today, boys?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm quite hungry, so I'll be trying to sneak in a couple bites of a granola. I'm not going to mention the name of the granola bar, right? They didn't pay for that, but a couple bites of a granola bar throughout the show because I'm very hungry. Got to get ready for the big basketball game tonight. But I'm great. Big stuff in the portal. Been keeping up with that all over the last where we started the second, so a week and almost 2 weeks now.
Yeah, close to 2 weeks.
So it's been going for a while. I think the dead period started today or soon. It's like a 3-day dead period where you can't take visits, and then it opens back up and finishes out. So that's happening, I think, now, but if not now, then very soon. And then we'll be wrapping up on the...
It's happening now.
Do we wrap up on the... I'm sorry. When I say dead period, we don't go back to visits. It's dead period, and then it closes, right? Yeah, because it closes on the 16th. 1 day of
non-dead, but...
Yeah,
So,
I guess it's closed because it's like the coaches meeting right now or whatever.
It's not that it's closed. It's that players can't
visit.
enter the portal, and players can't visit.
So it's basically closed.
So you have to have your paperwork and be in.
Correct.
Except for the two teams playing on next Monday night. They have another 5 or 7 days.
Yeah.
After
the
season
national
ends,
championship
games.
Which makes sense.
Yep.
They got that part right at least.
So, yeah, been keeping up with that. But exciting stuff. Y'all did not get Kim Coleman. R.I.P. that. But it's all right. I didn't want him anyway. You'll get better.
I just spilled on myself. Yeah, I mean, disappointing. The easy cope is apparently Texas paid him a lot of money.
Yeah.
And we got the number 2 wide receiver in the portal.
Who was?
Isaiah Horton.
Okay.
Not Kim Coleman level of a receiver, but it's a good pivot.
Yeah.
It's a good pivot. I'm happy with that room. So, and according to On3, we have the best transfer portal class from a net standpoint.
Yeah.
Of guys, factoring in guys that left and the guys we brought in.
Yep.
So I'm fine with it.
Yeah, and I mean, returning play pieces is such a big part in modern college football. So if y'all are doing that, I think, and given that y'all went 11-1 in the regular season, and
sure,
I mean, I think that if you could have signed up to return all of your pieces from last season, you would do that, which is kind of what you're doing.
That we could. I mean, we were an older team, so we lost a lot to the draft, and obviously this is only transfer portal, so it doesn't factor in those losses. But we should be chill. JP, how's your day been? How's you've been back in Starkville for a couple days now?
Yeah, it's been good. Nice to be back.
Have internet again?
Have internet again?
Did you not have internet? You were hotspotting the live shows, so I assumed you didn't have internet, or you had not great internet.
I had not great internet, but that's mainly because just poor design. My bedroom being upstairs is too far away from the router.
Yep, that'll do it.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that was the reason. So did you ever game in your room? You plug it in?
If I gamed in my room, I gamed on like playing college football where I don't need connection or reliable connection. But if I were to play like Arc Raiders, I go downstairs in the living room.
Okay.
Makes sense. I feel your pain. In my parents' house, I'm in the basement. Also nowhere near the router.
That's where your room is?
Yeah. It's a finished part of the basement. I had my own space. It was perfect except the internet connection down there.
I mean,
I've never thought about bedrooms in the basement, to be fair.
Well, you grew up in Georgia. Basements aren't really a big thing in Georgia,
are a big thing.
They are?
Up north, at least.
It's primarily Mississippi.
When you get to the hills, I guess.
Mississippi doesn't have a lot of basements because, like, the Yazoo Clay and all that. But
I mean, Texas had no basements either because Texas is...
Yeah.
Yeah, but, like,
I forget
like
Georgia's
northeast
hilly.
Mississippi and then, like, North Alabama, you get a lot of mountains, hills, and you get some basements and stuff like that. I'll one up y'all I grew up for 18 years and, like, not just in the bedroom. The whole house had miserable internet. It was just, we lived out in the middle of nowhere and our internet was
So you probably couldn't get
awful.
fiber or anything like that.
No fiber. I mean, it was basically whenever we wanted to play a video game, we had to tell everyone in the house, hey, I'm going to play a video game, turn off your Wi-Fi. And everyone had to get off and turn off every device in the house in order for one person to, like, be able to play a game, to play Fortnite or Battlefront.
The camaraderie there.
Yeah.
You know?
Man, when the cousins would come over and we tried to get the Minecraft server going, I mean, we had probably 6 hotspots going. It's like, all right, divvying up who's on which hotspot. It was a, it was a lot harder the teamwork outside of the game took more
Sure.
than the teamwork inside the game.
Sure.
But yeah, that was 18. Well, I guess technically it was 22 years of my life, but I didn't live there for the last 4.
Yeah.
And now we have a house with great Wi-Fi. It's so nice.
Upgrades all around.
Yeah, it's so nice.
It is very nice. You don't think about those kind of trivial things, and then when you get them,
oh, you do when you don't have them. You think about them a whole lot.
And then when you don't have it, all of a sudden it really sucks.
So like, yeah, for y'all that like maybe not always like who had like better internet like in different parts of the house, you don't think about it. But for someone who like never had it, I was like, when we talked about moving, I was like, so we're gonna have like actual internet now? Like we're gonna have internet?
Fiber?
Yeah.
Well, the worst thing about the Wi-Fi at my house, and we can move on shortly, but
talk about sports.
Yeah, talk about sports, not Wi-Fi. My dad has paid to have pretty high-speed internet. Shout out my dad. My dad, however, doesn't understand technology, that kind of stuff at all. So our modem, this is from the guy that came and installed it, set it up. It's an older modem. So our modem, our router, can only handle / output 33% of capacity, like speed-wise, that we're paying for. So we really need to go buy a new router, and we would just be in so much better shape. Me being in the basement maybe wouldn't matter, but he's like doesn't want to buy the wrong thing. He doesn't know what to buy, so we're just chilling with 33%. And some of the things like I wish it was almost worse, because if it was worse,
you would like
it would
address
get
it.
fixed. But just being on Google, Netflix, it works totally fine. It's just for like your more high speed stuff, gaming, uploading stuff. It'd be nice to have the other 60s, 2/3 that we pay for.
Yeah.
But it is what it is.
All right. You ready to talk about sports? We got 8 games.
We got 8 games.
A gauntlet.
And some Mike Tomlin news. Do we want to start with the Mike Tomlin news and then go into the games? Or
no,
we can talk about that when we talk about
with
the Steelers? Sure. We'll start with the 2 college football games then, and then pivot to the wild card weekend that just happened in the NFL. 6 games, a lot of heaters, honestly, in that slate.
Yeah.
Which we'll get to shortly, like I just said. We'll start, though. This was Thursday night. Yes. Thursday night game.
An eternity ago.
Miami versus Ole Miss. Miami ekes it out. Currently, the vision I have in my head is Carson Beck doing happy feet into the end zone on his 3-yard rush with 18 seconds left to put Miami up 4, pending the extra point, which they did make. And then Ole Miss got a pretty good look at it, to be honest, considering they only had 18 seconds left. 2 quick completions to get them to like the 37, 38-yard line, something like that. And then they throw a shot to the end zone. Incomplete. Miami wins. They're off to the national championship. Our podcast's nightmare is over, I guess, which was Ole Miss continuing to win and continuing to advance further and further into the playoffs. So
not JP's.
Done.
JP said he didn't care.
That's true. JP said he didn't care. Well, JP at least now can happily watch as as Ole Miss fans come to realization that was a flash in the pan and not the new norm, in his opinion.
Yeah.
That's an aside. Y'all's thoughts on this game? Thoughts on what you saw? Key factors, player performances, etc.
Yeah, I'll just start off by saying shout out on Carson Beck, which is a weird thing to say, not something I thought I would say going into this. He clutched up. Him and Mario Cristobal. When they got the ball back with the opportunity to go win it, I remember being like, man, if there's 2 guys I want in a clutch scenario, it's Mario Cristobal and Carson Beck. Which is entirely not true. We spent the entire game like explaining to my parents. We were watching it in the car driving back from the basketball game that night, and Jack and Lucy came to Jackson. So it was a bunch of us in the car, and we kept trying to explain why Carson Beck, like, why it was stressful having him in like must-score scenarios, especially down at the end of the game, just given his history as a quarterback in some clutch scenarios. But he clutched up. He did trot into the end zone. I remember saying, I was like, man, I wish he'd like done the thing where he like, runs on the goal line and just chews up an extra 2 seconds, an extra 3 seconds. Because I think the final play occurred with 2 seconds on the clock?
Yeah, give or take.
So when they got into range for the play, I was like, if Carson Beck had just done what I feel like a high IQ player does, chew up as many seconds as possible, Miami doesn't have to deal with that. That's very nitpicky. I mean, he won. Sure. He scored the touchdown. Like that's a nitpicky thing. But yeah, a crazy outcome, a crazy final play. But yeah, Ole Miss's offense was able to put up the 27 points. They scored on Miami's defense, not necessarily. I mean, I think that was something that like you kind of expect, given how well Trinidad Chambliss is playing.
Sure.
And then the next day he gets his waiver or his appeal declined, which felt like the NCAA just kind of coming in from the top rope to finish off Ole Miss in their season. But yeah, what are your thoughts, JP, on Carson Beck, Trinidad Chambliss, and the rest of the game?
Well, I watched this game with my father, Bulldog alum in the 90s, and so it was not rejuvenating, not the word, but it was a great reminder to the amount of hatred Bulldogs have towards Old Piss.
Sure.
I watched a couple games with my father over the course of winter break, and that was definitely the one game he was like the most angry at, because the whole game you're looking for moments, and there are moments of where it just feels like Miami is allowing Old Piss to stay in the game. They probably missed 7 or 6 interceptions. They missed probably 2 or 3 pick sixes in this game where it literally just hits them in the hands and they can't make the play. And so that was extremely frustrating. You give up a cat buster run to Kawan Lacey where he goes 73 yards. Outside of that, Ole Miss had like 30 rushing yards total. And so it's a huge play, though. It's a touchdown. It's 7 points all in one play. Speaking of that final play, I don't know about I'm fine with if he wanted to waste time. My biggest thing is protect the damn football. He's running with it with one hand up against his thigh. You know how easy it is to run into your thigh and drop the football? So easy. So easy. Hold it like a freaking ball carrier. Put 2 hands on it. You're playing for a right to go to the national championship, and he's celebrating 4 yards before he's in the end zone with the ball not protected. I said that coming into the game, I felt I didn't really care who won. And, I kind of felt that way watching it because it was an excellent, excellent game. And it was the start of what ended up being a weekend of unbelievable football games that we got. I give a ton of credit to Carson Beck, and you should, because that final drive is just tremendous. Absolutely tremendous. They complete a 3rd and 2. They complete a 3rd and 8 due to a penalty. They complete a 3rd and 10. And then he ends up scoring the 3-yard touchdown run, which was a beautiful play design. Everyone ended up rolling out to the right, and it leaves Carson Beck wide open. The spy that was on Carson Beck ends up stumbling into his center. And Carson Beck, he put a move on him. Like, he cuts a little bit right, and it gets the dude going to the other side of the center, and then he's gone. The biggest thing is, like, Miami just kept Ole Miss's defense on the field. They ran, I think it was 87 plays.
88, something like that.
That is not what the game plan would have been for Ole Miss. And for a defense this year that has struggled a lot throughout the year, it was something that frustrated me because Herb Street and Fowler talked about this defense like it's been an elite SEC defense all year. It hasn't.
Yeah.
It clearly has not. They've given up. They allowed Georgia to score points on every single drive against them. This is a defense that I knew was going to struggle in this game. It kind of felt like if Ole Miss was going to be in this game, they'd have to score, and score they did, but they didn't do it enough. I think the biggest credit towards Miami is, Carson Beck, he is protecting the football, only 1 pick in this game, but with them being able to run the football as well as they have, they've ran for, I think it's 130 in all 3, 130 or more rushing yards in all 3 games.
Yeah.
It controls the clock. It allows you to go on the tantalizing drives, which are so demoralizing. It allows you to keep, really hot offenses off the field. Something in college football, you have so many explosive play offenses. A&M, Ohio State has been that at many times this year, and Ole Miss as well. When you keep them off the field for 15 to 20 minutes of real time, it then puts so much more pressure on the execution of their big plays when they get back on the field. And you could feel that throughout the first quarter, especially the first quarter when they go 3 and out the first 2 times, and then through the second and third quarter until they got hot in the fourth, that it was weighing on them, that the execution was weighing on them. If they don't hit the run with Kawan Lacey, I don't think they're even in this game in the fourth quarter, to be honest. And that's with Miami dropping 7 interceptions.
And not even just one where it's like, the DB maybe could have made a play there. It's like, you had that in your hands, and then you like legitimately dropped it.
And that's with
I've made harder catches in the Turkey Bowl.
Correct.
That's with the demoralizing penalties as well. Miami had multiple drives where they're picking up 1-2 first downs, and then they have a false start, a holding call, an illegal shift, 10 penalties for 74 yards, and it killed the drive fully. So a ton of credit to Ole Miss for being in this game. Miami, I obviously controlled it the whole way throughout.
41 minutes of possession. Talking about the number of plays they ran, time of possession. Insane.
That's ridiculous.
Bonkers, truly. And then just real quick as well, Ole Miss, we kind of knew. You mentioned that their defense wasn't going to shut down Miami. I mean, Fletcher had another great day on the ground. You've talked about Miami's rushing success in the playoffs. Ole Miss scored. Like you mentioned, they did a good job of scoring, but they did also end up attempting 5 field goals and got just 2 touchdowns, which has been a bit of an issue for this offense all year, to be honest, is finding the end zone. They hit 4 of the 5 field goals. But when you kind of know you're going to have to score with a team, and they did a pretty good job of doing it, the difference between winning and losing this game is not finding the end zone enough. So
11 for 19 on third down, 2 for 2 on fourth, compared to 2 for 10 on third, and Ole Miss did not attempt a single fourth down the entire game. Another stat towards the domination that Miami had. But that's the unique thing about college football and football in general. We definitely saw that in the NFL playoffs this weekend. You can feel like a team should be in complete control of the game, and yet they aren't. Miami advances to the national championship. They will now they won't actually host. They'll play in their home building. They're going to be the road team, wearing the road white against Indiana's red and Fernando Mendoza.
I imagine they'll also have to use the road locker room, which I imagine has to be really, really weird to be in your stadium and have to go use the other team's locker room, and they're in your locker room.
Yeah, the crappy locker room. That is a good point.
I'm sure they soup up the locker room to a degree, since it's a neutral field, but still, it's going to be a different locker room.
And it I expect it not to feel like a home crowd for them either, with the performance Indiana put on in the semifinals in terms of crowd and their fans showing up. So they may be the home team. Well, they're not the home team in any way, but they're despite them playing in their home stadium, I guess the familiarity, they may be like, this looks like home, and it only looks like home in the structure.
Yeah. Do we want to address the last play? I feel like that's been a conversation point, at least in the circles that I run in, and by that I mean we played Engwall on Saturday, and warming up, all the Ole Miss people are complaining about, and I had to step away before I said something I regretted about how I just don't think it was needed to be a flag thrown. But yeah. That happened at the last play of the game, the Hail Mary, but it wasn't really. I saw someone say it wasn't really a Hail Mary because it was a drawn up play more so than just because it was only 35 yards, something like that.
Yeah, give or take 35.
It was more of so. I saw someone be like, it wasn't technically a Hail Mary.
You're trying to throw it to a guy less so than throw it to the end zone.
Yeah.
in that scenario. So I'm fine.
But there was some hand fighting and an Ole Miss
There's a little more than hand fighting.
Yeah, I mean he got grabbed. And, screenshots were posted, as is always the way when debating penalty calls in college football or football in general, is you take still images because that's going to give you the whole story. And then if you go back and watch, you see the Ole Miss player pushing off on his face, grabbing his face mask. It was just, I think it was a good no call, personally. I think that they had been letting him play physically all night. There were only, there were 15 penalties called, only 4 or 5 on Ole Miss and then 10 on Miami. So I don't think it was a poor call by the refs. I think letting him play in that situation is not the worst thing. But what were y'all's thoughts on the outcome of that?
If I'm the ref, I'm throwing the flag. I don't think it was egregious, though. He didn't, mug him in the back of the end zone. He does just kind of pull him down, in my opinion. That doesn't help the ball. Partially because, in my opinion, he's getting dragged down. But, the ball's a little deep. So there's not even, the receiver, it has his hands on the ball and is getting a hand yanked down or something. It's just there's so many bodies. It's hard to see. I don't necessarily disagree with letting him play in that moment. I'm not sure if that's the philosophy I do want the refs to have, because you still should probably call the game the same way to independent of the situation of the game.
Yeah.
I don't ever want my ref going, well, that's probably pass interference, but I'm not going to call it here.
I don't know. You've got those in Actually, that was a different tangent. The basketball refs or the basketball commentators who are talking about how you should referee the game situationally and not by the rule book. But sorry, that was not football. Sure. That was basketball. So I was about to take us on a tangent, but it's not related. JP?
I'm fine with it because they openly admitted, a lot of the rules. I think the rules analysts on the broadcast said it, but also other, refs and rules analysts that I'd seen on Twitter came out and said that is how they referee that part of the game. If it's a final heave, there's going to be hand fighting on both sides. Normally, they just let the play it as it is. If there's anything about that play that, spoke to me, I thought the play call was excellent. That Akeem Mesidor and Ruben Bain both lined up on the right side of the formation to force Trinidad to roll left, and then Trinidad did roll left. It was the same kind of set that Miami had ran and sacked Sayan on, where they had put Mesidor and Bain on the same side. And so I think the play call was really, really good. But they're going to ref a Hail Mary like that, just like they are going to at the end of any game. It's even if it's a game between a 1-7 team and a 2-8 team. It's just because the stage is bigger. That's how they play that play. That's how they ref that play. And so I'm completely fine with it, as long as they continue to do that.
Yeah.
As long as they don't make dumb decisions like say that just because dude had his hand on the ball like this, it's a catch. Shout out the replacement refs.
You wanted to apologize, JP? Are you going to apologize now?
No, he's trying to get me to apologize for picking Ole Miss. But I would like to say I never picked Ole Miss to win. I picked them to cover, and I was off by half a point. I'm not apologizing for that.
That's fair.
So
curious.
I don't know why is that curious.
I feel like you want to apologize for your performance this season.
I did. I did on. Didn't I do it on Tuesday's show?
Yeah.
And I said I'll be back and better than ever. Possibly some personnel changes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll definitely do a long introspective look on the performance this season in the pick gun.
You don't have to apologize for the totem pole. I'll tell you that much.
How'd it do?
Well, it went 3-3 this last week, but it's 60% so far this season.
Yeah.
Shout out the totem pole. Shall we move on to the Friday night game?
Let's do it.
Big Ten matchup, Oregon versus Indiana. And from the jump, it was all Indiana. Dante Moore's first pass of the game, pick six, D'Angelo Pond's house call, and didn't really get any prettier from there. Mendoza just dicing him up. Dante Moore looking a little bit like a deer in a headlight. He made some good plays, but, scuffed handoff, another fumble from him. He as JP was saying in the chat, and I didn't actually ask you at the end of the game, JP, but I'd imagine what you're going to say. It was like, you're like, oh, his draft stock's dropping. And then he led the touchdown drive on their second drive, and you're like, okay, that looked good. But I'd imagine you are way down on him after that performance, or at least down, maybe not way down.
A little bit down. I wouldn't say I'm way down because I think all the physical traits are there.
Sure.
A big story in this game was, Oregon's without their starting tailbacks, and they are literally having to move linebackers and safety to fill depth. At running back, De'Aaron Hill ends up being the starting running back this year, or in this game, and he has a 71-yard carry, but outside of that, he has 4 carries for 15 yards. Jay Harris gets the load of the work, and he has 16 carries for 35 yards. So Dante Moore was fighting an uphill battle the entire way.
Sure.
Sadly, and he's still without, of course, Evan Stewart. But I don't think that doesn't excuse the first play of the game. First play of the game was terrible. You can't. He takes a snap. He stares down his receiver. He stares. He's late on the throw, and an out-breaking route one-on-one where the DB's trailing. You can't miss to the inside because it's going to be intercepted more often than it's not. And shout out to D'Angelo Pons for having the pick six like that. At the same time, for him to respond that way, which I love the way he responded. Oregon responded immediately, goes 14 plays, 75 yards for a touchdown. Dante Moore hits a couple big passes on that drive as well. But he can't play defense too. And the first, I'll just go ahead and read the drive chart for Indiana. Touchdown. Of course, they had the touchdown on the pick six, so that you can count that. Punt, touchdown, 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 punt, touchdown, touchdown, End of game.
Pretty efficient offense there. I love my team to do that week in and week out.
Not even an attempted field goal. Not even really consideration about attempting a field goal. They didn't go for it on 4th down, so they were never in a spot where they had to think about it. They were either punting or they were scoring a touchdown on a drive. They were 11 for 14 on 3rd down.
Unreal.
Absolutely just dynamic. 185 rushing yards and a terrific day there. They only had 362 total yards, which is a credit towards their defense because they were not allowing Oregon to have long drives, and they were winning the field position battle. We said this coming into the game, Indiana was not going to go and lose this game, that Oregon was going to have to go win it. Indiana just went and won it anyway, though.
Yeah.
They completely out-executed. 3rd down was unbelievably efficient. Josh Pate said this, but I was saying this during the game. I'll use the analogy Pate used. You could take someone who's never watched football ever before, have him watch an entire Saturday of games, and then have him watch Indiana, and that person would be able to tell you, oh, there's something about when they hand the football off that their blocking is just better than everyone. And they are. Their concepts and their fundamentals are better than everyone. It's Remember the Titans-esque. It's Denzel Washington. We only run 7 plays. We run power. We run counter. We run these plays. And that's what they do in the run game, and it works because their offensive linemen are so efficient at getting to the right spot, at running the concept to perfection. They don't allow negative plays very, very often at all. And it makes them really, really tough to beat. So I think Dante Moore I'm still pretty high on.
Sure.
Fernando Mendoza, though, rose for me. The one knock I've had on him, and I've kind of felt this all year, I don't think I've said this even on the pod or in the chat, is that we haven't really seen him be forced into a spot where he has to make a second read. But if you're going to be as terrific as he is on the first read every time, then it does not matter. Because when he's that efficient at throwing the back shoulder fade to Elijah Surratt, when he's that efficient at finding his tailback out of the backfield, at throwing the deep ball down the field to Charlie B from Nashville, Tennessee, when he's that efficient on his first read, it doesn't matter that he can't get to a second or third read. It might matter one day, and it might matter for one play. But if he's that perfect on the first one, which is, mostly most plays are drawn up to be for the first read. There's a reason when you play the video game, when you pull up a play in your formations, one route is highlighted in all red, and that's because it's the main read. That's what you're trying to hit on this kind of play. This play is designed for that route. When you go and see a dagger concept in your Madden, playbook, the dagger route is highlighted because that's what the play is designed for. You're not looking to hit the go route. The go route is to take away the safety, and then you throw it behind the linebacker. When Mendoza is so great at throwing to the red route, the hot route, it does not matter that he can't, get to a second or third read. He didn't make a single throw in this game where he went to a second read. So that would be my only knock on him. But when he's 17 for 20 for 5 touchdowns, when he's outrunning guys like the way he is, which I can't wait to see, talking about the national championship, can he outrun like Ruben Bain and Akeem Mesidor?
See, that's my only knock on him.
That'll be fascinating.
Talking about your only knock, my only knock, and this is actually nothing about ability, because like you just said, he was outrunning guys. He looks awful when he's running. Like it just
that's a good that's a good knock.
It just looks uncomfy. Like it kind of hurts me a little bit to watch him run. He honestly gets the arms really going, like Erling Haaland for Man City.
Sure,
just like really swinging them. He's like leaning forward. Looks like he's out of control a little bit. Just pains me. But like I said, he gets it done. He had a couple really big runs in this game. Pulled away from people legitimately.
Kind of like the Daniel Jones play where he like trips through his own feet because he's just kind of running awkwardly.
Yeah, you're kind of almost waiting for him to do that when he runs, because especially since he's leaning so far forward, it's like you're expecting him to lose his balance and go down. But he doesn't. Yeah. So, like I said, not an ability knock, maybe an aesthetic knock I have on Fernando Mendoza.
I need to know your NFL all-aesthetic team. Not all-pro team, just your all-aesthetic team.
Yeah, I'll work on that. all aesthetics QBs just got to be Josh Allen, to be honest, I feel like. Like, who else you want to see run and barrel people over, heave the football down the field?
I mean, Lamar Jackson didn't have a great year this year, but Lamar Jackson in his prime is a very aesthetic player.
That is true. That is true.
Running back's got to be Saquon. He had the backwards hurdle.
He did have the backwards hurdle.
Yeah.
Would he have made it this year, though? No.
Probably not this year, but I was just thinking I'd have to be more specific to think about this year. I was just first thing that came to mind.
Sure.
Great game by Indiana. I'll be interested to watch the Dante Moore situation in Oregon. Dylan Raiola just committed there. I think I would say he'll come back for another year. I just feel like Dylan Raiola is the kind of guy that they bring in hoping to be able to sit for a year just because he's got a lot of tools, right? And he's shown that at Nebraska, making a lot of highlight plays. But he just hasn't had like the consistency, and I think developing for a year, especially after losing Will Stein, your offensive coordinator, you probably don't want to be trying to figure out new quarterback, new OC all at the same time. You would love to have a steady hand at the helm.
I mean, you'd also just love to have the phenomenal football player that is Dante Moore.
Agreed. Yes, that is true.
He also probably got Dylan Raiola for free because he saw Mahomes in that Oregon jersey and basically probably went and begged the staff of Indiana to give him an offer out of the portal.
Raiola may not want to play there. He may just be like, I'm just going to go to Oregon and then I'll just hang out.
Farm.
Yeah, or farm.
I expect Moore to come back. I think he would have had to have a phenomenal performance in the semifinals and maybe even in the finals to consider going. It makes sense. There's been the talk of the town of like QBs that have less than 20 college starts, and that their track record in the NFL is really just not that good. And he doesn't have north of 20 starts. I think he's sitting at 16 starts. So just go get some more experience and then declare next year isn't necessarily a bad idea, especially when your option is probably get drafted by the Jets if you do declare career suicide there. So I expect him to come back. Do y'all have anything to add on the online debate on Dan Lanning becoming the new James Franklin or in danger of becoming the new James Franklin of like can't really win the big games?
No.
Okay.
No, because for one, he's beat James Franklin twice. He's already won at Penn State. He's won games where he was an underdog.
Yeah.
He's won a Big Ten championship. He's had his team as the number one team in the country going to the playoff.
Yeah.
I think this is just going to be the nature of the sport with the 12 team, and now apparently it's going to expand to even more. That it's so easy to point blame towards he can't win the big one, but I do think there should be more credit towards getting to a college football playoff semifinal.
People are starting to ask, are you going to hang Final Four banners like you do for basketball? Like
that is the way. I'll tell you now.
It's gotten to the point where it's that challenging.
Now watching this tournament for a second year of the 12-team era, it 100% feels that way. Especially with the neutral sites, which I hope they get rid of at least until the semifinal. It feels like two different seasons. It 100% feels like college basketball in that way, where you have all of your. Now the regular season is better than college basketball's regular season. Although I really do have liked college basketball's regular season, especially conference play. But it 100% feels like two different seasons. You don't have the same kind of. This game is hype. You're ready to watch this game, but you don't feel the way about this game like you do feeling about the game with Michigan and Ohio State, or the third Saturday in October when Bama and Tennessee play. You don't feel that kind of anticipation for these games.
Sure.
Because it just feels so removed from it. We're January 13th. The season started August 26th. The Big Ten championship game was over a month removed from playing of this game. We haven't seen these two teams play in 2 months. Now, there is a recipe where that works. The NFL is already doing it, and they should just try to continue to copy that.
I don't disagree.
And have the home playoff games forever and ever. But I do think it's the nature of the sport thing in terms of Dan Lanning. Because he's had incredible seasons, and he's still so young. So young. It's also his first time ever being a head coach, was here at Oregon. And he continues to put continues to have a lot of talent. They just haven't, executed on that. He's lost to what is probably going to be the national champions, the favored to be national champions by 7.5 point favorites.
Yeah.
He lost to the national champions last year in Ohio State.
Yeah, the year before that was the runner-up, Washington.
The runner-up in Washington. So it is not like it has been. I don't feel like it should be such an indictment that he hasn't beaten the national champion or the runner-up to the national champion.
Yeah, it's kind of
in any given year.
Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous. This is year 4 for him. Year 1, he lost to Oregon State, Georgia. I think that Georgia won the national championship that year. But in the last 3 years, so 3 out of 4 years, he's got 5 losses. And all 5 of those losses will have come to teams that played in the national championship. That's just like, if that is like below the standard that Oregon has set, that's ridiculous.
I'm not saying it's necessarily below the standard Oregon set, but this is how the conversation probably started with James Franklin way back in the day.
Yeah, I think that's part of the point. Is the James Franklin conversation started way back in the day. This has been going on for 3 years. Like.
I don't agree with the claims. I was just playing some devil's advocate.
Appreciate that.
There's so much time, and it is really funny to see that online the day after they lose because it just gets the Oregon fans all riled up.
Well, it's going to be the reaction for anyone. It'll be the reaction, after this weekend in the NFL. If Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos lose to Buffalo, it'll be, is the Sean Payton Bo Nix, is that going to work going forward because they're 0-2 in playoff games? It'll be no different with...
That'll be me, by the way.
It'll be no different with Buffalo if they're to lose. Sure. Will they ever get it done? The fact of the matter is Dan Lanning has had 3 years in a row kind of inarguably a top 5 to 7 team in the country. Sure. Yeah. And he continues to put guys in the NFL. He's had NFL caliber quarterbacks. He's had Heisman contending quarterbacks. So he knows what he's doing because that's what he was an offensive coordinator at Georgia.
Yeah.
So he knows what he's doing offensively. They've had high-powered offenses. They have just lost to, like I said, the national champion or the national champion runner-up.
And I think part of it is also I don't think college football fans have adjusted to the fact to NIL and in the new era. So I think that a lot of fans, I think state fans are guilty of this, of being like, well, we're paying for our roster. We should have the best roster in the country. Like the news that came out that state's NIL budget this year is like $30 million. And all the state fans are like, well, why aren't we getting all the best players? We have $30 million. So does everyone else. Like, that's kind of what I don't think college football fans have, like, completely adjusted to yet, is the reality that just because you're giving a lot of money and just because Oregon has a crap ton of money, I don't think you can buy championships. And I think fans feel like you should be able to because $30 million is so much money to build a roster. But every other P4 team has a budget of 20 to 40, 50 million bucks.
There was so much more that goes into it than just buying rosters. However, I don't think Oregon is in a spot where they can complain about the NIL landscape hurting their chances of being a competitive
I'm not saying it's
team.
hurting. I'm not
They're
saying
one
it's
of the
hurting their
teams
chances.
in the best position to perform well in this scenario, given the backing they have from Nike and all of that. So, if anything, they should be able to just reload for the most part.
Which
there'll be hiccup years, correct? They have been. But I'm just saying, like, I expect that to continue. I wouldn't give them a...
And I'm
trying to think of a team that I've given a pass to in recent years because I'm like, it didn't really work out.
Florida State?
Well, I gave it, let's just say Florida State had that really bad year and then they bounced back. That would be a scenario of like, you took some swings in the portal, it didn't work out, get back on the high horse next year.
Penn State this year.
Sure. Maybe.
No, I'm not trying to give Oregon a pass. That's just kind of the reality that Oregon is able to get a lot of talent, but there is more to it than just buying talent. And I think that fans don't realize that. I think they're just like, we should just be able to buy the best team and then just go win. But there's more to it than that now.
Sure. I mean,
that's one thing that Pate's talked about a lot in the SEC is how the SEC for years just had the best talent and won, and now they don't have the best talent. And so until they close the gap in coaching, they're not going to win again. That's not a quote. I'm not putting words in his mouth. That's
it's
just a general.
The thing of, there used to be a lot of the most enticing thing in college football used to be the SEC for a short stretch.
Yeah.
Now the most enticing thing in college football is money.
Yeah.
So who really cares where the money comes from as long as you're getting it?
Some people would say that the most enticing thing was the money from the SEC.
Well,
some people would say that.
Neither here nor there. Not me personally.
I think it is here or there, but we can pretend it's not relevant.
Other places, McDonald's are everywhere. You can get a McDonald's bag from anywhere and then put some cash in it for anybody. Anyway, real quick before we move on, fantastic job, Indiana. Dominant game. JP touched on it a little bit. I feel like we just didn't talk about Indiana much, but there's not really too much to say because we've said it for weeks after week now of like this Indiana team has played phenomenally. So shout out. I expect to see more of the same, honestly, in the national championship game. Spoiler in terms of, not necessarily, I'm not going to say they're going to win, but like them playing good football, them being very sound, as JP was talking about. It's just really fun to watch. So shout out them for that because there's been a lot of chaos and sloppiness in this day and age of college football, and they're kind of the opposite of that.
Yeah, I think the only thing, if you're looking at that game, is Indiana offensively versus Miami defensively. That'll be the key matchup. How much of a problem do Ruben Bain, Akeem Mesidor, and others present for them in the passing game? But the biggest thing, I think, is in the running game. How much of a problem do they present there? Because that is an area where Indiana has had a ton of success so far in their 2 games in the playoff, is being efficient on first and second down, and then having really long runs as well. They had a carry of 23, 12, 26, and 21 in this game, and more carries of that kind of length as well. Miami has kind of shut down the run. Outside of Kawan Lacey's big run, Ole Miss had roughly 60 rushing yards. A&M struggled. Ohio State struggled. That is the key matchup to look at right now. But the 7.5 points is completely fair for a spread. And that'll be my first point when we talk about that game, is what a world we live in where, 1, Indiana's playing for the national championship, and 2, they've moved the spread probably 2 touchdowns over the course of a year.
Yeah.
Oh, and it's not just like this is a end of the season game where the games have no meaning. No, Miami's also playing the national championship, and the spread is still moved 2 touchdowns. It's unbelievable. I'll continue to beat the dead horse. It is unheard of what Cignetti in Indiana has done this year, and looks to continue to do going forward.
Sure. Shall we move on to the NFL?
Let's do it. I've got them in chronological order, I believe.
That works perfect.
So first kickoff Saturday.
Yeah, I'll just start it off, not necessarily this game specific. Overall, it really was a heater, wild card weekend. Phenomenal games. The first 3 games, I saw the stat where the team leading at the 2-minute warning lost the game. So just great contest up and down the board. Exciting things to watch in every single game. But in this one, it was exciting for multiple reasons. One of the reasons it was exciting / nervous is we are kind of a Panthers hater podcast, at least currently, at least this year. Bryce Young hater podcast, especially this man over here, JP. But this game was close. Matthew Stafford didn't necessarily play his best, made some mistakes. Now it's crazy to say he didn't necessarily play his best. The team scored 34 points. That just tells you how good he can be. And the Panthers hung around, couldn't quite get it done, lost 34-31. But y'all's thoughts on this game? What do y'all see?
If you want to lead, Sanders, you're more than welcome to.
No, you got it.
This game being close doesn't surprise me.
I mean, we all picked the Panthers to cover as much as we hated on it.
It was the best bet this week. 10.5 points was way too many points. This was going to be, a tough. It was going to be a 4-quarter game for the Rams, even with the way that they started the game, where you give, Carolina goes 4 and out, turns it over on downs, and then you score a touchdown almost immediately. There was never, a world where this wasn't going to be some kind of competitive game. I do want to say to, Bryce Young and the Carolina Panthers fans, I'm proud of the way he played. Now, he didn't play great, but he did play better than he has played so far this year. And so far in his career, 21 for 40, 264, a touchdown, a back-breaking pick that turns into 7 points for Los Angeles. But with the weapons that he has, and he's been throwing to Jalen Coker, an undrafted rookie, Ted McMillan, who was a first-round pick, was excellent in this game. But outside of that, he's got really nobody to throw it to. For him to move the ball like he did in the second quarter and the fourth quarter against Los Angeles, where his run game, which they had leaned on all year, was not good. Chuba Hubbard only went for 46 rushing yards. A total credit to Bryce Young for scoring 31 points in a playoff game. And I want to go ahead and get that out that, he scored 31 points in a playoff game against the Los Angeles Rams. He had a really good day. He has a dynamic rushing touchdown, which reminded me of his college days a ton. And he was pretty good through the air. 21 for 40. You can't knock that because we're probably going to end up praising Caleb Williams here in a few minutes. And he has had the same stat line pretty much every single game Caleb has played so far this year. So while he wasn't efficient, he did his job. And I think you have to give him a ton of credit for that. It also at the same time is I'm really excited that he performed the way he did because they're going to pick up his fifth-year option, and they're going to be screwed next year because he played good enough to keep his job. Same way I feel about like Kyle Pitts this year, who played good enough to get overpaid by the Atlanta Falcons and then go right back down to earth. Bryce, I think, played enough to get his fifth-year option, which he should celebrate, but it is going to continue to doom the Panthers going forward. 8-9 football team winning the division. I don't think you should celebrate the season personally, which I know that they obviously would. A lot of people were calling me the B word because they made the playoffs. They only made the playoffs because they were in a three-way tie. They very easily could the three-way tie have gone someone other way, and you finished third in the division with the same damn record. So I disagree with Panthers fans there. I do want to say, though, and what I said coming into the game is they have rejuvenated that fan base. Yep. They're going to have a ton of belief going into next year. They're going to have a ton of games where they are attending those games. They're going to have a better home crowd next year, and I think looking forward, maybe it's going to be maybe look better or feel better going forward for Carolina, but I don't think it's going to necessarily get better.
Sure.
The Stafford side, I thought he played fine. I mean, Puka Nacua is unbelievably dynamic, 10 for 111 and a touchdown in this game. He has 3 carries for 14 yards in this game. They're using him in every way possible. He's unstoppable, and it really makes this Rams team really dangerous going forward with Puka. And then Devontae comes right back, and he hasn't played in a month. He goes for 5 catches and 72 yards. 31 targets between those two guys on the 42 passes that Stafford threw. So if the Rams are going to be stopped, it's going to have to be a DB group that can.
I'll just say expect that to continue as well.
Yeah, slow down those guys. That's going to continue this week against Chicago. Because if there's any DB group that has struggled against receivers, it's been Chicago this year. But I give a ton of credit to Carolina for fighting this game. I'm not surprised the game was close. I don't think any of us are. But it's another good win for Matthew Stafford. They'll continue to hope to beat Chicago this weekend and then get a rematch in the NFC Championship game.
Yeah, I mean, stat that jumps out to me immediately, Panthers 0 of 3 on fourth down. Even like 1 of 3 that game maybe changes. To go 0 of 3, get the ball right back 3 times.
They were 3 for 3 on fourth down in the first game.
Correct. Massive swing because you just give the ball right back to that high-powered offense and you can let the guys go to work. Also, and this is going to be a theme in these game reviews, the drops seemed insane this weekend. Just in every game, it seemed like there were key drops. You had the Puka one in this game, and then also Jimmy Horn drops it to end the game officially. I don't honestly know if the Panthers would have been able to drive anyway, but that did solidify it. He drops it. The Packers receivers towards the end of that game, a couple big drops down the stretch. Maybe some tough ones to catch, but you're kind of in the game to make those plays. It's the playoffs. Those are the plays that you have to make. Now, of course, I'm blanking on other big drops. I feel like the Steelers receivers had a couple drops last night.
Yeah, Metcalf definitely had one.
Metcalf had one, but it just seemed like everywhere I looked, every time I was watching one of these games. A.J. Brown was the other guy I was really forgetting, had a big drop. Chargers receivers, Herbert didn't get much to work with. There were a couple of times I felt like they could have made a play, and they didn't make the play. So just really confused by that. But then also on the flip side, some crazy big wide receiver performances. Jalen Coker has a massive game here out of nowhere. Puka was fantastic aside from that drop. So really weird dichotomy of like fantastic receiver performances with just like bad crucial drops mixed in, not necessarily by the same player, but it was like an epidemic. Anything else on this game? Can we move on?
Yeah, I'm good.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm good.
We're going to move on to the heater of a matchup here. Third time this season. They're divisional rivals, so if they face off in the playoffs, it'll be their third time, obviously. And all three games have just been fantastic cinema. Yet again, it looked like the Packers were going to run away against the Bears, and then yet again, the Bears reeled them in. Caleb Williams was great down the stretch, made some big throws. JP mentioned in the Panthers-Rams review, it's a classic Caleb Williams game of like, you look at the stats, they're really honestly not all that great, especially from a completion percentage standpoint. And even when you watch the game, you can see him miss some throws. But the throws he makes, there's one or two other quarterbacks that can make that kind of throw, and that's why you want him in this position. I actually thought Jordan Love was really, really good as well, especially in the first half, and the Bears dialed up the pressure, and that offensive line crumbled a little bit. The play calling was interesting, and, he took a step back, though. I'd argue once again on that last drive, I thought he threw a couple of really competitive balls in big spots, and the receivers just couldn't come down with it. So I was really happy with his performance. But the Bears do it again. They win 31-27. Yet another comeback for them. Like I said, yet another massive performance or massive play by Caleb Williams down the stretch that decides the game. His jump throw on fourth down the sidelines, phenomenal. But y'all's thoughts on this game? What did y'all see? What did y'all like?
This game was absolutely electric. It feels like an eternity ago. I guess this was Saturday night, right? But watching this game, a great comeback by Chicago and the Bears. After the events that transpired, the terrible fumble luck that Chicago had, Green Bay put the ball on the ground. There was the offensive lineman that fumbled it, right? Chicago couldn't come up with that.
Yep.
There was the dive into the end zone that I think 3 Chicago guys are around. They didn't come up with that. I think there's another one that there were 6 Chicago guys around, and a Green Bay dude just comes in out of nowhere, scoops it up. It was ridiculous. Did the offensive lineman, they dove on it, it just popped out and went out of bounds. Mm-hmm. Terrible fumble luck. So incredible mental resilience and resolve for Chicago to not give up. They were down. What was I had different stats up. What was at one point
21-6 going into the fourth quarter.
Yeah. So a great comeback by them and able to kind of stay locked in the midst of what was a pretty it just felt like everything was going to go against them that game.
Yeah, you spoke to it. The Green Bay Packers had 4 fumbles in this game, including one, like you said, to their offensive lineman, which was a screen pass to Darian Kinnard, where he tries to do too much and then literally kicks the ball up the field, 15 yards up the field. That was a sight to behold from the bar that I was in when I was watching this game with my friends. I think the biggest thing from this one is, like you said at the opening, Jack, this is a rivalry that's been dominated by the Green Bay Packers for a long, long time, and it's mainly because of Aaron Rodgers. But Caleb Williams now has his 3rd win against the Green Bay Packers. That's more than Jay Cutler, Mitch Trubisky, and Justin Fields had combined against the Green Bay Packers.
Insane.
So it is turned on its head towards Chicago, and it's still neck and neck with these two teams, but it is now becoming more of a rivalry. It's becoming that kind of level, and you can see that with Ben Johnson, the way he reacts during the game, after the game with his handshakes with Matt LaFleur, and then the way he's talked in the locker room and in his post-game media conference, and his post-game media conference the day after. Chicago hates the Green Bay Packers. They showed that. And there is something to be said with when you have that kind of hatred towards another team, that it allows you to continue to push and drive and compete and not give up. It is a complete testament to Chicago this year. They have now 7 game-winning drives or fourth-quarter comebacks from Caleb Williams this year. 7. That's unbelievable. It's been a dynamic season for them. For them to turn it on the way that they did, where they have 3 points in the first half. Jordan Love has 3 passing touchdowns in that first half, and then to score 25 points in the fourth quarter, all on really dynamic drives, including 3 straight touchdown drives all of them under 2.5 minutes. So not running the football, using Caleb Williams' arm. The throw he made on 4th and 8, which we hadn't mentioned yet, where he's rolling to his left and does the Jordan Jumpman pose, is one of the greatest throws of all time. It's best throw of the weekend. I think second to that is only the Josh Allen throw he had in the fourth quarter against the Jaguars. It's an unbelievably dynamic throw. Caleb Williams was 4 for 8 on passes 22 yards down the field on the left sideline in this game. 4 for 8. All of them like within 22 and 23 yards. It's on his passing chart. It looks really goofy. And this was one of them. Yeah. Apparently his hot spot, yes, rolling to his left and finding his receiver down the field. Al Michaels and Herbstreit talked about it on the broadcast. Al Michaels has done Chicago Bear games for a really long time. Of course, did their last home playoff game there. He said it was the loudest he's ever felt that building. And it is something to be said about the kind of belief that they have in that building. Obviously it's not sustainable. Like we saw this with Kansas City this year, and Sanders pointed out at the beginning of the year, that one completely flipped on its head. It went from they were 8 or 9-1 or something, and it flipped to they only won one score game this year.
Kansas City?
Yeah,
they were 12-0 last year.
Yeah, and it flipped to they only won one and lost. It was either 7 or 8.
They may have been. It was 12-0 or more. It might have been up to 15-0.
I think it was 12.
It was Chicago this year.
It was ridiculous.
Obviously, 7 game-winning drives and 7 fourth-quarter comebacks. They've been excellent in one-score games. It's not sustainable going forward into the future, but it's damn sure sustainable.
A couple more times.
3 more times. Yeah. That's all they need to do to win the Super Bowl, and especially this coming weekend at home against Los Angeles. It has to put a ton of fear in the way that the Rams are going to call plays, the way Sean McVay is going to handle the game, because if there's one thing he hasn't been immune to, and it's honestly been kind of his Achilles heel, is he chokes leads. He has really bad play calling in key moments. 2 of them this year you can really highlight Thursday Night Football games where he has questionable decisions in the fourth quarter against the San Francisco 49ers and loses that game at home, and then you're up 30-14 in the fourth quarter against Sam Darnold in Seattle, and they have not moved the ball all day, and you end up losing that game in overtime. I think it's going to be a huge mental edge for Chicago going into that game and going forward this year. Obviously, like I said, it's not sustainable going for the future, but it damn sure is sustainable this year. Caleb, again, like you said, another Caleb Williams games, 24 for 48, 50% completion percentage. But he goes for 361. He throws 2 touchdowns. To have that in your first playoff game is what a statement.
Sure.
I think it's only going to propel him going forward. For him, coming into his career being the number 1 overall pick, but not just the number 1 overall pick, generational prospect. They talk about him like, they talked about Trevor Lawrence. He's going to be Mahomes 2.0. He has the year he had last year. He has the kind of season that he, to start the year, they start 0-2, and it doesn't look like it's going to look good going forward. He has not had a really efficient day once this entire season, but to have that performance in his first playoff game, like Chicago is, Caleb Williams, I think, is right back on schedule with, where he was kind of destined to be. Everyone kind of thought he's going to be the next great quarterback in the NFL, that he's going to be the same conversation as Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson and Mahomes, but finally the NFC gets one of those guys, and it's not all on the AFC.
Yeah.
With this win, I think he's propelled himself towards that, and I do think they get to play with a ton of house money going forward in this postseason, because they were not expected to be here. They were not expected to win the division. They weren't expected to be the 2 seed, and they weren't expected to win this playoff game. They were the underdogs. They were 1.5-point underdogs to a team that they had already beat in this building this year, and it's a testament to their competitive integrity and character, because the way that they won these 2 games against the Green Bay Packers would be really damn hard to recreate.
Well, you want to talking about so here's a tweet. Josh Dubow, I don't know who that is. I think he works for the AP. Offensive players run with the lead in 3 Bears-Packers games this season.
I saw that stat.
Packers 106, Bears 0. the Bears won 2 of the 3 games.
And they didn't run a single snap with the lead?
They didn't run a single offensive snap with the lead, and they won 2 of the 3 games, which just speaks to so much of what JP was just talking about. And is also something that if you looked at the probability of, you shouldn't bank on like replicating that next season if for some reason you face against them 3 times. I have a couple shout-outs to give. Want to shout out my boy Matthew Golden. Rough season for him. Gets a touchdown in a big spot. Kind of looked like it maybe would be the dagger. Put him back up 2 scores. Late with like 5.5 minutes left or something like that. Ended up obviously not being the case. Shout out Colson Loveland, has been phenomenal down the stretch. Proven why he was drafted so high. Looks like he could be an alpha tight end in this league for many years. That's exciting for Chicago. Shout out Micah Parsons. Couple reasons for that. Very active on social media during the game, being very supportive, which, and whatever, like, he's a player on the team, he probably should do that. I just like to see it because, after the character assassination Jerry Jones tried to pull off, it's cool to see that from him and be like, yeah, he's someone that's bought in here and someone that is a team guy, unlike what Jerry Jones tried to tell us. And then also the Packers went 0-4 without him. So, like, the ultimate, I'm really good and I'm really impactful is I go down, I tear my ACL, and all of a sudden the team doesn't win another game. Huge statement. And then if you're a Bears fan, shout out the Packers kicker for missing an extra point and then a field goal down the stretch that loomed pretty costly. Do you have any more X's and O's or thoughts on the games? And if not, I have like a more tangential question to ask y'all.
No. I think if anything, awful play calling in the second half. Matt LaFleur was on the staff of the Atlanta Falcons when they choked a 28-3 lead in the Super Bowl. He was on that staff. Run the ball more. I think they Josh Jacobs had 5 carries in the second half. 5. Now, look, they had multiple 3-and-outs in the second half. But you got to drain some more clock somehow in this kind of game if you're going to start playing and play calling so defensively, which they clearly were throughout the third and fourth quarter. Run the ball more and at least try to drain the clock because you can't. It's inexcusable to choke this kind of lead against the Bears, and it's not the first time he did it this year.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's fair. Because he wasn't just not running the ball; he was taking like low percentage deep shots. Mm-hmm. It wasn't even like, oh, let me try and hit a guy on a slant across the middle, or like run a little out to try and almost like a extension of the run or like a little screen play. It was like he was taking some shots late, and that actually kind of leads into my question, which is, there's been a lot of smoke of like, do the Packers move on from LaFleur, or should they consider moving on from LaFleur? Where do y'all stand on that?
I wouldn't, and that's coming from a Packers guy here. I wouldn't,
sure,
personally. Now I did say coming into the postseason, he would not have a postseason appearance without Aaron Rodgers had they not expanded the field to 14 teams, because he's been the 7th seed 3 times in a row now. Now it did end up giving him the 1 win, and that's been the lone win and for a 7th seed in a 2 versus 7 matchup so far in its 5 years of its running.
Has it been 5 years?
5 years, yeah.
That's crazy.
This might have been the 6th, but it's been 5 or 6 years. I wouldn't move on from him because he's winning. He continues to keep the Packers perennially, in contention to win the division. Of course, they haven't for 3 straight years, but they've also been like the last, at least the 2 years prior, were really big uphill battles with the amount of games that the Detroit Lions won, winning 13 and 15 games in those 2 years. But the way he clearly can develop quarterbacks and put them in, outstanding position, whether it's Jordan Love or now he's going to get Malik Willis a 3-year, $60 million contract, apparently. He wins games and he puts his quarterbacks in great spots to go out there and win games. Sure. That is something in a quarterback-driven league that you can't just trade away and get rid of. So I'm keeping him personally. I'm giving him 1 more year. He's got 1 more year in his contract, and then he's got to debate whether or not he's going to extend it. So I'd honestly coach him through this year and then decide based on next year how you want to extend him.
Yeah.
With Micah Parsons returning, and another year with this team. If there's anything I'd say to him is keep Matthew Golden on the field.
Sure.
Matthew didn't have the season that we expected. We, not him, expected. But that is in large part because he and multiple times he's just not playing. It's like Keon Coleman with Buffalo, and I think Buffalo might be a talent thing. It's clearly not a talent problem. He had an amazing day against Chicago in a playoff game. It is just that the guys above him are better, and LaFleur wants to play those guys over Matthew. I think you got to keep him on the field and let him cook, because
is it not concerning that he's got 3 or 4 guys that are better than him, as you just said, and they're all like wide receiver 2As?
I don't think they're all wide receiver 2As, to be honest. I think they're all wide receiver 1Ds, or if something. Christian Watson could be and has been a number 1 receiver, and Romeo Doubs and Jaden Reed, they've all also had 3 years with Jordan Love. They've had a lot of experience.
I think the familiarity in the system is what's making it really hard for Matthew Golden to break through.
And the biggest problem with them is also because none of them have just consistently outshone. You have to play all 3 of them, because you never know. One of them might end up having their day where they go 8 catches for 124 and a touchdown.
Sure.
That happens to be Romeo Doubs in this playoff game. The next week it could be Jaden Reed. It could be Christian Watson.
Just never was Matthew Golden.
Well,
it will next season.
He didn't get the snaps to do it, in my opinion. He also, I think he missed there were opportunities in the beginning of the year where he drops or Jordan Love just outthrows him on a couple deep shots, and I think that really could have changed the course of the season. I think about one on Thursday night when he was playing the Commanders, where he had a deep shot over the middle that just goes through his hands. But I don't think the book's written on the dude with the way he performed.
Yeah,
on Saturday night.
I agree, and also I agree with your assessment of Matt LaFleur. There's too much good to fire him so early. It would seem kind of rash, in my opinion. Anything else on this game? Shall we move on?
Was that your tangential question?
Yes.
Oh, was Matthew Golden?
Was about Matt LaFleur. Would you keep? Would you fire Matt LaFleur? Would you keep him? I think they'll probably keep him, considering we've not heard firing news yet.
I don't know why I almost just ended the recording.
I was getting really confused. That would have been insane. But we're still rolling.
Yep, podcast over. Wrap it up.
Bills at Jaguars. Josh Allen's playoff run started in Jacksonville, and it will continue as they get the win 27-24. Clean day for Josh Allen, which if you ask JP, he'd tell you that's the key to the Bills winning games. He doesn't throw any interceptions. He's efficient on the ground. He has 2 rushing touchdowns, outplays his counterpart, Trevor Lawrence, I would claim. And so they get a win, and a much-needed win. I asked JP if this was their toughest test till the Super Bowl, they being the Bills, and he said no. They're all of equal toughness. So I guess I'm sorry, Bills fans, because that means the road ahead of you is long. You literally have to go to Denver to play in Mile High next week. But a huge win, a great start. Y'all's thoughts on this game?
You go, JP.
I want to say that there's a reason that, I look at, and a lot of people as well, look at some quarterbacks differently than others because of the way that they perform in the postseason. And there's a reason I hold a lot of value in that, because for Josh Allen, Buffalo had their worst rushing performance of the season, the least amount of rushing yards, the least amount of rushing attempts from their running backs, obviously the least amount of rushing yards per carry, and tied for the least amount of rushing touchdowns from their running backs in this game. Now, part of that is the fact that it was the matchup. I was surprised at how well Jacksonville shut down the run, even with them being the number 1 rushing defense so far this season. I thought James Cook would have some kind of added. I thought he would have a good game. I thought he'd get to around 90 yards, 100 yards in this game. I thought he'd have some big carries. He did not. He had 3 yards per carry for 46 rushing yards. Josh Allen also, I'd look at his cast of receivers. Khalil Shakir has a dynamic day, but outside of that, he has a bunch of guys. A bunch of guys who've played snaps, a bunch of guys who maybe had a little bit of talent back in the day. He loses his most familiar weapon in Gabe Davis to a torn ACL early in this game. He completes a pass to the son of Frank Gore Jr. in this game. And yet, I'll ask y'all, do you guys think Josh Allen played excellent? was that Superman Josh Allen on Sunday.
I don't know if I'd go Superman.
I don't think it was Superman Josh Allen.
And yet he was 28 for 35, 273, and a touchdown, and ends up winning a road playoff game.
I think it's because that's like...
This is if that's a bad, not a bad, but a middle-of-the-pack performance, the way it looked, the way it felt, and we haven't even seen a Superman performance out of him, it is a reason that he is put so highly on a lot of people's pedestals, totem poles, one might say. And he is more talented than a lot of the quarterbacks below him. There's no denying that. But the way he's performed in the postseason throughout his career is a testament to him. The way he performed in this game, you think of all the circumstances that he overcame. I already talked about the run game. I already talked about the receivers. But him physically, Haley Steinfeld's not in the stands. She's presenting at the Golden Globes that night. Joking, of course. But physically, he hyperextends his knee in this game.
Yeah.
He hits his finger on a dude's helmet in this game. He's already dealing with a right foot injury that he suffered a month ago, and yet it did not matter. He's not going to take him off the field. He takes a hit where it's an independent neurologist, but maybe the independent neurologist might have got paid off a little bit because that looked like a hit that would knock someone out of a game. Did not matter for him. He shakes off the concussion, one might say, and he ends up continuing to play. He ends up playing one of his best games, of his playoff career. 28 for 35 is unbelievably efficient. 108.7 passer rating in this game. He's only sacked once in this game. Josh Allen ends up tackling 4 times, which was always funny every time that happened.
Of course.
But it's why you hold someone of Josh Allen so high, in such a high regard, because what an excellent performance for him, considering all the circumstances that he was, had to go through. And he was able to pull off a big win on the road when, it didn't feel like Buffalo had their best offensive day. And they clearly didn't this year.
It was really all on him, and he got it done. You said Gabe Davis tore his ACL?
Yes,
that was confirmed. Just got announced Tyrell Shavers also tore his ACL.
Damn.
So he just lost 2 receivers.
You can pick up a free agent.
OBJ.
Yeah, I was gonna say Odell too.
he's out there somewhere, but that is.
Has he been on the Bills? He's not made a stop to the Bills yet.
He is not. That'd be good for future. Well, does does the NFL what's the game I'm talking about? You know what I'm talking about. Bing, bing, bing. It's 9 boxes. You guess the players based on the criteria.
Oh, yeah.
What is that called?
Oh, Immaculate Grid.
Immaculate Grid.
Wow.
That'd be nice for the Immaculate Grid. Though, does the Immaculate Grid count playoff?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I figured it would. That'd be huge.
Suit
for
up for a
Immaculate
game
Grid.
for them. That's not a preseason game.
Yep.
Cool. But yeah, on the Jaguars side, hard fought. Trevor Lawrence played fine. The 2 picks are rough, especially the last one. Defense, maybe you would have wanted a little more considering how good it's been, but it's just a tough task to really stop Josh Allen. I'd argue it's a very successful season for them under the first year under Liam Cohen.
100%.
You make the playoffs, you win your division, you're just in phenomenal shape moving forward. Sure, it didn't break your way this time, and as Dan Campbell said, and as is very true, you can't really count your chickens before they hatch in terms of returning to the playoffs. But in theory, they have a high chance of this being the beginning of a successful window for them. So I don't think there's any reason to hang your head.
I don't think there should be anything negative taken from this game for them. They missed opportunities, 100%. You have the 4th down run for Trevor Lawrence where his shin is down short of the line, and they turn it over when they have 15 yards left for a touchdown. You have his early pick that ends up being a field goal for Buffalo, and then, of course, the pick at the end of the game. But there have been 3 quarterbacks in NFL history that have had multiple go-ahead touchdown drives in the 4th quarter in a playoff game and lost. 3 quarterbacks ever. Drew Brees in 2011 against the San Francisco 49ers. Josh Allen in 2021, which was the 13-2 game against the Kansas City Chiefs. And Trevor Lawrence this weekend. So I don't think you should take anything negatively from the Jacksonville Jaguars and Trevor and them going forward. I saw people that were bashing Trevor, wondering if he's ever going to perform. He's already won a damn playoff game.
Sure.
Now, I think the biggest thing you could take from Trevor and it's something he's struggled with his entire career, but turnovers is a huge one. You have that fourth down play. I view turnover on downs just like a turnover for me, and him stumbling short on a fourth down. Josh Allen wouldn't stumble on a play like that. He'd go and pick it up. The interceptions, look, he's forcing the one to Jacoby Myers, and maybe that's a little bit of unlucky. It's great coverage, but it's the first play of the drive. You're not even giving yourself a chance to go down the field.
Yeah.
Maybe check that down. Maybe roll out and throw it away. Maybe don't force it on that first play. That I'm completely fine with that being a knock. That has been a knock I've had on Justin Herbert, of course, is turning the ball over. But the way he played in this game, I don't think you go into next season wondering if he's the answer. He's getting paid $55 million a year, but he's got a playoff win. He has now won the division for a second time, and the way that they played offense, it felt like throughout this year, for the first half of the year, that they were winning in spite of him, and then in the second half of the year, they were winning because of him. He was
completely
unbelievably dynamic, and you fully expect Travis Hunter to return next year. It looks like with their receiving core, maybe he has to move to DB going forward full time.
Yeah,
because Parker Washington has fully came on for them. You expect them to reload on a few key weapons and go make some win now moves. But I wouldn't take anything negatively from Trevor because, like I said, 3 quarterbacks ever in NFL history have lost in a game where they have 2 or more go-ahead touchdowns in the fourth quarter. It's Josh Allen in the 13 seconds game. No one bashes him for the way he played in that game because he left the field with the lead, and he never saw the field again. They changed the overtime rules because of it, and y'all don't remember it, but it was a crushing loss against the San Francisco 49ers in 2011 for Drew Brees, and I don't have any bad feelings about Drew Brees for that game either. In fact, I don't really have any bad feelings about any of his playoff performances except for one of his last ones in the COVID game. I didn't think he played well in that game. But fair. Trevor shouldn't be bashed for this game. He's a Jacksonville quarterback going forward, without question. He deserves the money he's being paid because he's outperforming some of the guys that are being paid just about the same amount. And you just lost a tough one to Buffalo. Like, it's a tough matchup, to be honest. It's not your typical 6 seed in the postseason, playing a quarterback who's literally won a playoff game every single year for I think it's 6 years now in a row, which is the longest active streak in the NFL, of course, with Mahomes being injured this year. C.J. Stroud close on his tail with 3. He's the next closest right now. But I wouldn't take anything negatively. First season with the head coach, it feels like you finally got the head coach kind of figured out. I think the biggest thing for Jacksonville going forward is to make sure that you don't, like if they are to start the season hot next year, you can't have what you've had in the past, which is you've gone cold. They were 9-3 at one point 2 years ago, and then lost 5 straight and missed the postseason. Those kinds of things can't happen. But that is you could tell. Again, to speak to like Carolina, they've rejuvenated that fan base. That place was packed. That place was loud. It was not the loudest of the weekend, but it was clearly an advantage for them. Now they're going to deal with stadium renovations, and they're going to play with a limited capacity next year in that building, and then the following year they're playing in Orlando. So it's kind of a tough timing for that. But
for sure,
that fan base is right back in with them, and Duval County is ready for continued success, hopefully with Liam Cohen and Trevor Lawrence going forward.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. There's no reason to question Trevor as a starter. One, because I think he played well enough to deserve that, but also even if he didn't really play great, you've already paid him, and you can't really get out of that yet. So, anything else? Should we move on to the next game?
Yeah, we can.
Cool.
Can you real quick tell me what you know about Dealon Evans?
Yeah, Dealon Evans is I believe how to pronounce his name.
Dealon.
Limited playing time. Interior guy that just he flashed when he played at times, and he is definitely pretty talented.
He's a redshirt freshman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Finished his redshirt freshman year.
Freshman year.
we had a couple experienced defensive tackles, so he just struggled to find playing time, and I don't think that'll be as much of an issue for him at State. I'd expect him to contribute and look like an SEC defensive lineman.
Yeah.
He looks the part. I mean, it said he's 6'5", 310.
Yeah, 6'5", 310.
Great size.
Him and Will Whitson on the interior. That could be a D-line, interior D-line I could get behind.
He probably was the guy I was most sad to lose.
Yeah.
Out of everyone. So
I'll be interested. Also, I don't know. I it's a cool story to have him and Scylla back on the same team.
I really wish you had got Tristan Jernigan out of the portal. He went to Cal, but he's just from Tupelo, and it would have been cool to just round up some A&M boys.
Yeah, make you even more of a State fan. And then we also just got an offensive lineman from LSU, true freshman, 6'6", 335, with 4 years left. That's a big man. Big man. Not sure how I feel about just picking up that LSU offensive line that was not good last year and then moving it to Starkville.
And Phil Lodeholt, we trust.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully, I guess you're relying on development, and then you're also relying on maybe there were a couple pieces there that were good but looked bad. And I get that I think we've got 2 offensive linemen from then who were both young and didn't play a whole lot, but it's still like, they didn't play.
Did this guy even play at all? He was a true freshman.
Yeah, I doubt that he did.
Yeah,
I'm not going to complain. It's just like my first thought is, so we're taking offensive linemen from a team that had an awful offensive line last year.
At this point, it looks like you're doing some volume shooting on the offensive line, which is not a bad way to go about it.
We'll take it. Absolutely take it. Sorry, I was just trying to read Tucker's text. Miller is like Nash and Dent. Should have been here all along. Okay. Bye. Okay. We can go on to the next game. We just did Buffalo Jacksonville. We got 3 left. San Francisco at Philly is next up.
This game brought me much joy as a Commanders fan. The Eagles go down. Not a pretty offensive game for them yet again. Their defense played well. Just couldn't get it done. We had the A.J. Brown hysterics yet again. Stefanski, I don't know who the heck I'm talking about.
Sirianni.
Stefani was in my head. I went from Stefanski to Stefani. Sirianni. Thank you. I don't know how I blanked on that. Running up to him on the sideline, all that. But they lose 23-19, and it's already been announced that Petullo's been fired. So they'll be looking for yet another offensive coordinator, 5th in 5 years.
Yep.
Once again, just trying to figure that out, maybe get more stability. Some of it's been their fault. Other times they've made such a good hire that person has then been hired away.
Yeah, it's crazy that they've had a guy come in to be the OC for a year who immediately gets hired away.
Yep. Disappointing season for them. But at the same time, you won the Super Bowl last year, so it's kind of like there's not tons of ground to be crazy upset, I would argue. But y'all's thoughts on this game? What did y'all see? We had another sacrifice from Christian McCaffrey, if you want to talk about that, JP. But
I want to give a ton of credit to Brock Purdy.
Sure.
I think he's changed a lot of people's views with the way he's played this season. While Mac was really good in the games that he played, Brock Purdy has been really great in a lot of the games he played. For him to respond the way that he did in this game, where he throws pretty critical interceptions, including an interception that ends up leading to a field goal where they end up trailing, and then he goes right back down the field. It goes 10 plays, 66 yards, 5 minutes, touchdown, retakes the lead. I want to give him a ton of credit for the way that his second half wasn't perfect, but he made the critical plays when he needed to. Christian McCaffrey has one of his lowest rushing outputs of the year, only 48 yards on the ground. That's kind of expected with that Philly defense. But to lose George Kittle doesn't matter. We're going to go to Demarcus Robinson and Kyle Juszczyk, who has 4 catches for 49 yards in this game. Robinson had 6 for 111. Purdy has not been in his career a guy who has not performed in the postseason, so it's not necessarily surprising would be the word for it, but it is really cool to see him do it when it feels like a lot of the weapons are gone, when it feels like a lot of the things aren't going his way. When he loses George Kittle in this game to another CMC sacrifice or the electrical plant next door, which is the next leading theory. I'm still in the sacrifice theory.
Sure.
Personally.
I think we can't get off the sacrifice theory until Christian McCaffrey gets hurt again or he's off the team.
Agreed.
And then if it continues, we can swap over to the electrical plant theory. I'm good with that.
Because CMC has not lost a step all year, clearly. 6 catches for 66 yards in this game, including 2 receiving touchdowns, one from Juwan Jennings and one from Brock Purdy. He doesn't look hurt at all, so I don't think the electrical plant is hurting him. And it's his highest year in terms of touches in his entire career. In his age 30 or 31 season, he's been the lead workhorse back for San Francisco, and yet he's doing fine as they continue to move on. Brock Purdy, I thought, like I said, played an excellent game overall, especially when he was called upon. He made the critical plays that he needed to. The touchdown to start the game and go ahead and punch first, and then the touchdown drive to end the game and take the lead back. But this was a Philly collapse, and it surprised me because I banked on the fact that Philly, throughout their career, with Jalen Hurts at least in these 4 or 5 years, have been really, really good when they got to the postseason.
Sure,
they've had not great offensive performances for much of the season, and then turn it on when they got to the postseason. They've been dynamic at home. Jalen Hurts has never lost a home playoff game until now. But the writing was on the wall. I thought the kid whose Christmas present was to go to the Eagles game, who was asked after the game, put it the best way possible. That Kevin Patullo, he hopes, is flipping burgers at the nearest McDonald's as soon as possible, because he's making, I'm paraphrasing at this point, McDonald's kind of burgers where one side is cooked but the other side is raw, and that is how they've played offensively.
Yeah. So on the burger front, something profound our friend Chromie said over Christmas break: you can't expect Burger King to make a beef Wellington, and that's essentially what they were asking Kevin Patullo to do, him as Burger King, and make a beef Wellington out there, and you just can't get that as a McDonald's worker. You can't expect McDonald's to make a beef Wellington. So
yeah,
but why is he Burger King?
Because he's Burger King quality at what he does, right?
But Jalen Hurts is.
But I feel like he's only Burger King quality what he does because he can't make a beef Wellington.
Yeah, but at the NFL, you got to make beef Wellingtons out there. As the offensive minds are supposed to be of the quality of head executive chefs across the country.
Yeah.
If you're a Burger King level offensive coordinator, get your butt down to the high school ranks.
Wow.
That's where the Burger King, the McDonald's level offensive coordinators reside.
Yeah.
No shade to them. They're doing it for the love of the game, and they're helping kids get to fulfill their dreams, and there's something really important in that. But you just don't belong to the National Football League. So
yeah, to speak to the Burger King / McDonald's quality burgers, the first 3 drives for Philly go for 13 points, 182 total yards, which is 5.5 yards per play, and they don't punt the football. The rest of the game, 6 points, 125 yards, 3.2 yards per play, and 4 punts. So, again, this is a team that led the league in 3 and outs this year. They had 3 more in this game. It's terrible. It's a terrible offensive performance, and it has been for much of the year. And for considering the weapons that they have, when you think of the weapons that Josh Allen has, which he has a great running back in James Cook, likewise with Saquon Barkley, but he doesn't have Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert and A.J. Brown.
Sure.
And he definitely, his offensive line is good, but he hasn't had the kind of awesome offensive line that Philly has had for multiple years. And yet they just couldn't get anything going. A.J. Brown wants to pout throughout the entire year, give cryptic messages, and then on a deep ball refuses to, get off the field in proper time, almost causing Philly to have a delay of game on a punt. And that's what ended up causing an argument between Nick Sirianni and A.J. Brown in this game. And then he wants to fight back for whatever reason. And then when it's the biggest moment in the fourth quarter, he drops a pass. And if he catches that pass, they might end up going on to win that game. I get it's not a huge change, but it was because Jalen Hurts completes a 15-yard pass the next play. It was a critical moment. It was about a 25-yard completion is what it would have been, and it would have been on the plus side of the 2-minute warning still. They would have been able to run another play. Instead, it ends up being an incompletion. It goes literally right through his hands. Jalen Hurts can't make a better throw. Those are the kind of things that, if you're going to talk your stuff and you're going to, beg for the ball and stuff like that as a receiver, you got to go make plays with it. It is one thing to, be an elite trash talker, an elite diva, whatever, but you got to go out there and perform when you're called upon.
Yeah.
He's performed so far this year in those moments, but he didn't on Sunday afternoon, and that is what ultimately is going to end up costing, Philly a chance to play in the divisional round and a chance to, keep Jalen Hurts' perfect home playoff streak alive.
Sure.
I think in large part is due to, A.J. Brown, the hole that he had on, Jalen Hurts in that offense. Now, Jalen didn't play well. Only 168 passing yards. Was 20 for 35, which was both of those were uncharacteristic, which is why that part surprised me. He's been really, really good. He's been really efficient in his playoff games, and he wasn't that on Sunday. That being said, he's still I don't know. How do y'all feel? I think obviously he's the quarterback going forward, but
based on what we saw last year and based on what we saw this year, right? Basically everyone on the Eagles, except for maybe A.J. Brown, like you said, he's brought a lot of attention on himself with the way he's acted. Some on the football field, but especially on streams, on social media. They kind of get the Kevin Patullo pass of look, we just won the Super Bowl, and then this is really what all that changed. And all the Eagles fans are fully bought in that theory as well. So I think they're basically all going to get a pass till next season, which then is one, you better play well next season, but also Philly better nail this offensive coordinator hire. That's easily, it's kind of every team's biggest thing is when you have a coach opening to nail that hire. But it is crucial for them to maybe not even just get a guy that's pretty good. They need to really nail this hire, because if they do this kind of thing again, then maybe. I start having questions about Jalen Hurts, and we know Philly fans, while die hard, that can become toxic pretty quick, and so maybe they start being Jalen Hurts, he just can't get it done anymore, stuff like that. But I think they're in a pretty good spot, at least this offseason of, we just screwed up the Kevin Patullo hiring, and we'll just we fired him, and we'll fix that and be ready to roll next season.
Yeah, I don't have any concerns about 10 of the guys on the offense. A.J. Brown is the only one I'll be watching with interest this offseason to see. Because, there were trade talks.
He may just ask out. I don't know.
Yeah. There were, all the trade rumors around the deadline. He ends up not getting moved. So, we'll see how that develops. But, yeah, I don't know. It's hard to move on from when he's at his best. What's one of the best wide receivers in the NFL? The Titans did it. And look where they are now.
Yeah.
Not to say that's where I'm not saying that's where the Eagles would be if they did it. But that is, I feel like doing that is a symptom of poor decision making.
Sure. I do think it's a thing of at his best, he's one of the best wide receivers. But if he asks out, is how optimistic are we that we're gonna get the best out of him again?
That's what Washington's hoping for with DeMond Williams.
True. True.
I want to give the biggest shout out to Robert Saleh and to also Coach Shanahan.
And all the no-names playing on that defense.
They had 3 guys that started for that defense that were not on the team a month ago. And they just won a playoff game with them. Their green dot, Eric Kendricks, who is second on the team in tackles, was not on the team 3 weeks ago. And here he is, winning a playoff game. The kind of season that they've had, I'd put up Kyle Shanahan for Coach of the Year for the way that Robert Saleh was bashed in his days with the New York Jets. He's came here and he's completely resurrected his image in the public light. I don't think his image was ever, down for me. It's not like with he who shall not be named, but I'm going to name him, Dennis Allen.
Yeah.
Where, the head coaching stint didn't work, but, okay, he's a fine defensive coordinator like Robert Saleh. No, Dennis Allen is just terrible, and he was for 4 years as a head coach with the New Orleans Saints, and he has been this year for the Chicago Bears. He's been a terrible defensive coordinator. They have, a bottom half of the league defense. They give up a ton of points. They have an opportunistic defense. but that's about it. Robert Saleh is working. You want to talk about, working as a Burger King guy making a beef Wellington. He's working with Burger King ingredients, and he's making a beef Wellington.
Yes, he is.
Losing Nick Bosa, and losing Fred Warner, and now you have guys like Garrett Wallow and Eric Kendricks, and a rookie in Upton Stout having excellent days for them. It can't be overstated what they've been able to do defensively. Now it was against a really poor offense that has been really poor for much of the year in Philly. It's going to have to, build on itself next week in Seattle. But it is a statement that they were able to win a game because their defense got a stop at the end.
Yeah.
Not because they had the ball last. Those are always huge statements to be made. And you can have a terrible defense for an entire 3.5 quarters, but if your defense makes a stop at the very end, they should get praised, and they completely deserve to get praised.
Yep.
With the way football is, it is so offensive these days. But what a win for San Francisco. They were 5.5-point underdogs in this game. Obviously, shocked all of us. We all picked Philly and Philly to cover. I'll take full blame for it because my argument was so good.
Sure.
It was the only game we all missed this week because we all picked Philly. But San Francisco advances. They'll play in Seattle on Saturday night on Fox against the Seattle Seahawks. It'll be the third matchup so far this season. They played week 1, the final week of the year. Final week of the year for the 1 seed. So we get the rematch, and we get to see whether or not that was that last matchup is par for what the rest of their matchups are going to be this year in this final matchup. We didn't get that last year. I remember with the Vikings in Detroit. Vikings then went into Arizona and played the Rams and got blasted, and we didn't get to see the matchup again. We get to see it again here. And I can't wait for Saturday night in that game in Seattle and to see that place rocking with a playoff game. And I think Brock Purdy and the Niners have, a damn good chance to be competitive in that game. Do you want to guess the spread on that game?
49ers at where?
Seattle.
I mean, I think it's is it Seattle 7.5?
That feels high. I'll say 5.5.
7.5.
Wow.
I mean, it was 5.5 Eagles. I feel like just everyone thinks the Seahawks are better than the Eagles, so I bumped it up a couple points. I mean, I agree with that assessment. Last thing I want to say, shout out Juwan Jennings for the touchdown pass. It was fire, but especially just the cool bit of trivia than being wait, I just either had no clue or just completely forgot that he was the 4th-rated dual-threat quarterback prospect coming out of high school. Because all I remember about him, and me and Sandy were talking about it from his college career, was the Hail Mary he caught.
Yep. Against Georgia.
The season they rose all the way to I think 8th overall before going into Kyle Field and losing in overtime to Trevor Knight and the boys, who then proceeded to turn around and travel to Stark Vegas and lose to Nick Fitzgerald and the boys.
And who was on that team? That it was Kyler Murray was on that team because he was the same class. He was the number 1 dual threat, and Juwan Jennings was number 4. Well, I guess no. Yes. He may not have been on the roster at that point because Juwan probably wasn't a freshman at that time.
Who wasn't on the roster?
Kyler Murray may not have been.
Kyler Murray was already at Oregon. I mean, Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Oregon, what the heck.
But still, that was funny to look back at their rankings and be like, Kyler Murray's at the top of the list, committed to Texas A&M.
Yep.
So goofy to see.
That's a great trivia, too, for the next game as well. So that'd be great trivia to use here in a second.
Okay. That Juwan Jennings has thrown as many playoff touchdown passes as Justin Herbert.
Oh, gosh.
We'll get into that.
Yeah, we can go and move on. Take it away.
I'm just double-checking my facts real quick. Yep, I'm right. The Chargers win the award for scoring the least amount of points in the 2026 wild card round. They muster 3 whopping points, which is really good for the Patriots offense because I didn't really think the Patriots offense was all that good. Drake May really didn't have a great day. Their run game was working pretty well, Ramondre Stevenson especially. But, yeah, not a great day for the Patriots offense. But no one really cared about it because the day that the Chargers offense had was pretty appalling. All around, offensive line, terrible. Justin Herbert, terrible. Offensive line didn't help him. But he had chances to make plays, and he made basically none of those plays. And then a couple of times I thought he did make a play or two, the receivers didn't make a play. Even thinking about, Keenan Allen drops that ball on third down, which there was a holding, so they would have had to try again. But, then they just have to punt because he dropped it, so the New England can just decline the holding. Horrible showing. They've already fired Greg Roman, the OC, and I'm blanking on his name, but they fired their offensive line coach as well, which makes perfect sense in my opinion, because I know they had all the injuries. But at some point, as the offensive line coach, you have to instill some sort of floor that the guys will play at. This is my system. Sure, I don't have my stalwarts, my stars on the offensive line, but I at least need my guys to know what they know what they're doing out there. And the Chargers' offensive line never looked like they knew what they were doing out there. So I think the offensive line coach deserves a lot of flack for that and deserves to get fired for that. But yeah, really poor day. Now Justin Herbert's 0-3 in playoff games, fully worthy of all the criticism. Disaster. And now we'll look to see what they can do next year. But kind of hard to have crazy high hopes after watching that, even taking into account all the injuries. Y'all's thoughts? I think my bit of a spiel.
For one thing, I think we'll just segue this into a Justin Herbert conversation.
Oh boy, this will be interesting.
That we love to have. Look, I think there's plenty reason to have hope for next year's regular season, but there's plenty reason to have zero hope for next year's postseason. If there's one thing that we now know, and third time's a charm, as you guys, and a lot of Justin Herbert guys wanted to see, I want to see it a third time to know he's not a playoff performer.
Well, can I give him a shout-out real quick?
Sure.
No interceptions.
No interceptions, yes.
There you go,
Justin. He did have a turnover in this game, loses a fumble.
Yes, he did.
I would blame the offensive line a little bit there.
Yep.
I wouldn't blame, C.J. Stroud. C.J. Stroud deserves blame for his fumbles last night. I wouldn't blame Justin Herbert for his fumble.
At that point of the game, he was dead. The game was over. Mm-hmm. Kind of from that point on, I don't really fault a lot of his stuff. Now, early game, he didn't play well either. But yeah, continue.
Yeah, you cannot. And this I put full, responsibility on the quarterback. First and goal from the 10, first and 10 from the 11, 3 points scored. That can't happen. That cannot happen in the playoffs. This is my own stat, and I got a couple others. If you take away points off turnovers, Justin Herbert teams have scored 23 total points in the playoffs in his 3 starts, 23 total. And now, if you just take drives where the ball was at the 35, which is a touchback in the NFL, or worse, and he had to drive the length of the field, he scored 16 total points. For context, these are the guys he's being compared with. Now, I will say you guys haven't said that he's necessarily better than a couple of these guys, but Josh Allen has 71 total points on 35 or longer drives from the 35 or longer. Mahomes is 41. Lamar is 57. Joe Burrow, 44. Trevor, 54. C.J. Stroud, now 32. For context, Justin Herbert had 16 total. They've all doubled him up, tripled him up. Points off turnovers, they've also all doubled them up or tripled them up, except for C.J. Stroud. 64, 77, 60, 51, 75, 32. Even Drake May, in his first ever playoff game, has already outperformed both of those numbers. Or he's going to outperform both of those numbers when he plays this weekend. I would expect him to at least put up points, where he has 13 points off of 35 or longer starting position drives and 16 points not just off turnovers. That's just the AFC. If you go to the NFC, these numbers are going to be the same for Dak Prescott,
sure,
Jaden Daniels, Jalen Hurts, Jared Goff, Jordan Love, Baker Mayfield, Matthew Stafford, Brock Purdy will all have better on each. Other stats to look at. Takeaways by your own defense. This is the most in a 3-game playoff losing streak across your career. Justin Herbert has 10 takeaways from his defense. His defense has given him 10 extra possessions. The next closest is Chad Pennington with 5 in a 3-game losing streak. Justin Herbert is now 11-33 in his career against teams with a winning record. These are the lowest passing ratings in playoff history the last 25 years this century. Justin Herbert is the second worst at 64.7. He is among guys like Ryan Johnson from Tampa Bay, Carson Palmer, and Andy Dalton. He's not a playoff performer. I think that is the biggest thing that you can 100% take away. When you're in the postseason, you got to find ways to score points, and he cannot do that. He has not done that. He consistently didn't do that. In this game, it was what I hated to see was for a guy that is, praised so much for his talent, and he's made some incredible throws this year, and he's made some incredible plays, and I did want to lead with this, but I'll go ahead and say it right now. What he did to get this team to the postseason should be celebrated 100%, which is why I think, regular seasons going forward, you should have confidence in Justin Herbert. But he took his foot off the gas pedal. He was so passive. His eyes weren't downfield in this game. The all 22 monsters on Twitter ate him up because there are so many missed throws down the field. The biggest one that, irks out to me is Ladd McConkey has literally the entire side of the field open to him and 50 yards in front of him, and Herbert doesn't see him because he's not looking down the field. Now you could say maybe the offensive line has sped up his clock, and that's fine. I think at some point, if you can't, if man, the superhero, Justin Herbert, if man, we can't continue to make the excuses. I think he deserves to be celebrated for the runs he's made to the postseason with the teams that he's had. I think there deserves to be context in that because he's playing in the hardest division in football when playing in the same division as Kansas City and Mahomes. So he's not had, the right as Josh Allen has had with Buffalo, where he's played a terrible division. He's been able to win the division often. But it's very easy to point and make a scapegoat. And I'm fully fine for it. It is naturally a thing in sports, but also it is just as easy to go to quarterbacks throughout history and find things that they overcame. Josh Allen is winning playoff games without a number one receiver. He's won playoff games with statistically one of the worst playoff defenses in NFL history, and he continues to win playoff games. Mahomes has won playoff games. He's won a Super Bowl on a bad ankle. He's won and reached the Super Bowl twice with a terrible offensive line. Joe Burrow had a terrible offensive line. Oh, and yeah, it's the year he returns from an ACL injury, makes it to the Super Bowl, beats Mahomes in his own building. And the list can continue to go on down the list of guys that have overcame stuff and won playoff games. C.J. Stroud, while the defense did most of the work last night, also won a playoff game with essentially, he's had no running game all year, and he's found a way to win a playoff game now 3 years in a row. I think it's very easy to make an excuse, and I'm fully fine for it. If it makes you, if it eases your conscience, by all means, go ahead. But if there's one thing we know now, and I already knew this because I've already seen it twice, Herbert's not a playoff performer. He has plenty of time to change it. But at this point, it is a completely fair criticism. Sure. We should completely throw out the Peyton Manning comp at this point because that was a big comp this year was year 6 Peyton Manning and year 6 Justin Herbert. Year 6 Peyton Manning had more passing yards, better passer rating, better record, less turnovers, more touchdowns. Oh, and he also had in his playoff game in his 6th year the only perfect passer rating in NFL history.
Yeah.
Throw that comp out the window. I'm never going to knock his talent because the throws that he makes, the plays that he can make are there, but he doesn't have it in the postseason. And I don't think it hasn't just been something that's followed his NFL career. He was not great in key moments in college. I think of the game where he loses to a true freshman quarterback in Bo Nix in Auburn. I think about the game where he loses on the road to Jaden Daniels, and he was not terrific in that game and a team that should have made the playoff. This is kind of a thing that's followed him, and not everyone has it. And it shouldn't be like I shouldn't chastise him necessarily, but it is found a problem when he is boosted so high because of his arm talent that he has. Yeah, he's got to perform when the lights are there.
In terms of scapegoating and making excuses, there's so many you could make.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of them.
And I agree with a lot of them too. And if this was, his first really bad postseason performance. I'm a lot more liable to lean into those excuses. I won't excuse, even though I do agree with a lot of the excuses, I won't use those to prop him up. Those excuses being historically bad offensive line, bad play caller, looked a little hurt in the game potentially just from taking so many shots. I was thinking about, I think he has offensive line PTSD, kind of like C.J. Stroud does.
And Baker Mayfield did at Cleveland. I mean, that's one of the reasons Baker got run out of Cleveland is the offensive line, and Freddie Kitchens ruined him. And so they're like, well, we got to find a good quarterback. Baker's not good. Turns out when you put him behind a good offensive line and give him weapons, he is good. So.
And then also, he finally had a 50-yard rusher on his team in the playoffs. But, oh, wait, the 50-yard rusher was himself in this game. But you are right, like especially trying to compare him to the top tier of quarterbacks, which no one on this show has done. But a ton of people in the media have. He just doesn't belong at all until he does something in the playoffs. So he's your guy, Sanders. What do you want to say?
I don't really want to just sit here and make excuses, and I feel like that's what a lot of Chargers fans are going to be doing right now. Like we said, there are a lot of them. I'll just say that I feel like barring Josh Allen, every quarterback you listed that overcame something, I feel like had something else to his advantage. Mahomes had Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, and Andy Reid. Lamar Jackson has had Derrick Henry at times. And so it's just, I don't feel like Herbert has had, while he's been missing things, right? The other quarterbacks have been missing. I feel like he hasn't really had something else great to his advantage besides himself and his talent. And so he's had to use that talent to carry teams into the playoffs, right? He's had to use that talent to overcome playing with a third-string running back, third-string tackles, a defense that looked great, and then you realize that they had played the Chiefs, who were not good, the Raiders, who were not good, and the defense was not bad this year.
They only gave up 16 points.
Right, the defense was not bad this year, but it wasn't we thought it was the best defense in the NFL through 3 weeks to start the season. It's not. And so he's had a good defense this year, but I don't think he's had some of the elite stuff that other quarterbacks who, Mahomes had to overcome that offensive line, but Mahomes has had really good defenses the past 4 or 5 years. He's also had
terrible defenses, and he made the Super Bowl with terrible defenses.
Yeah.
I name one receiver on Trevor Lawrence's lone playoff win.
When was that? Last year?
No,
he beat Justin Herbert
against Justin Herbert.
Oh yeah.
Gosh, what year even
was that?
2022.
3 years ago.
Oh, 3 years ago. Okay.
One receiver on that team. I don't know if I could.
He threw 4 passing touchdowns in that game.
Shout out him.
If I told you coming into this game that your defense, which has been playing well at times this year, had only given up 9 points to Drake May in the offense, would you feel confident about how you were feeling going into the fourth quarter?
Yeah.
Hell yeah, you would.
Also, like that first year as the Jaguars, he did have a really good supporting cast around him offensively. They were putting up tons of points. You had premier Austin Eckler. Mike Williams was on that team. Keenan Allen was really cooking that year. And sure, you could say Justin Herbert did a lot to help their stats look good. But he had a legitimately great offense going into that season, and then they can't score in the second half.
For me, it's at some point he has to still go out there and perform.
Yeah.
Nothing is ever going to be perfect. You're never going to have perfect health. Brock Purdy has lost. His whole defense has lost everybody. He just had CMC in that game, and he goes and wins on the road in Philly, even with throwing 2 interceptions. He leads 2 big touchdown drives in that game, and it wasn't an issue for him. If they can't, it's not that the scapegoat's ever going to be Herbert, but at some point, I think a lot of the blame should fall on Herbert because that's how playoff quarterbacks. That's how the blame is given out to playoff quarterbacks is. If they don't perform well in the playoffs, the blame is handed on to them.
And props to Herbert. He always does take the blame. He's the first to, in the post-game presser, be like, I got to play better. Meanwhile, you got guys like Bradley Bozeman. I don't know if you saw his presser or saw quotes from his presser. He's emotionally fighting back tears, and he's basically like, maybe I didn't have the year I wanted, but y'all weren't in that room with us. I fought. I'm proud of the way I played. I basically I think I did fine. And it's I'm not saying you got to be self-deprecating and be like, I suck, I'm the worst person ever. But maybe be yeah, I got to be better or something I don't know. Harris, by the way, the Chargers, they did fire their head coach or their OC. Their OC.
It has cottoned up to Lamar. He's had 3 playoff wins in the last 8 years, and every single year there's been a different scapegoat. It has been, oh, well, we have no running game. Okay, let's give you Derrick Henry. Oh, well, our offensive coordinator's terrible. They've changed offensive coordinator multiple times. Oh, we got no weapons. They spent a first-round pick on Zay Flowers. Now they're going to fire the head coach and see if that's the reason for it. For Herbert, it has been, oh, he doesn't have the weapons. Well, they spent a pick on Ladd McConkey, and now they spent a first-round pick on Amari and Hampton. And I know neither of them were part of the team this year, and I think in large part was the reason that they've struggled a ton this year. But they've spent 2 first-round picks on Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt. And I'll go ahead and tell you next year, if those guys are healthy and they're in the postseason, I don't expect Herbert to play well. I don't expect him to have the great game because he hasn't up until this point. And
now he may not have to have a great game.
He may not have to, but
Hampton and those guys.
They've replaced the head coach. They've got one of the most winning coaches in NFL history, and Jim Harbaugh there. They're going to replace the offensive coordinator again. He's just not a playoff performer. That's the only thing I'm saying. That's the only thing I'm saying is he's not a playoff performer. And in me saying that is the reason he's so low for me, because I value playoff performers. I value guys that are going to show up in the postseason, because that's when it matters. What the hell are we playing the season for?
Sure.
If not to put ourselves in the best spot in the postseason and then go and try and win playoff games. And Herbert now for 3 playoff games is leading an offense that can't score points.
Sure.
And has lower points than pretty much everyone. Every single one of his counterparts. He's been outplayed now 3 times by one of his direct counterparts in his own conference. In C.J. Stroud, Trevor Lawrence, and Drake May. He's been outperformed statistically on a field in a given game in the playoffs. We hold that against Josh Allen because he can't perform against Mahomes. I think we should just do the same with Herbert.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Real quick, and I only asked this because his name came up. So when you go to PFF and filter by sacks, most sacked quarterback in the NFL, Justin Herbert at 60. Second most sacked quarterback, tied for second, Geno Smith. So I just want to ask you real quick, because in the preseason,
Sure.
we had our long debate about who is better, Justin Herbert or Geno Smith. I need you to answer now, after we've had the season. The Raiders do not go 2-15. They were better than that. I was mistaken.
Much better than that.
3-14 finish.
Yep. Huge for them.
Who's the better quarterback, Geno Smith or
Justin Herbert is. I felt that way.
Did y'all curse them both?
After week?
We may have cursed both
week 2
teams.
or week 3. I felt that way
after Herbert beat him. Is that when he? Yeah.
So
what a game that was.
That hasn't felt any different. But at the same time, Herbert has a worse playoff win-loss than Geno Smith. So
true.
Who is better? Justin Herbert.
Let's flip it to the Patriots side real quick.
Absolutely.
Oh, I forgot we have to talk about them.
Drake May, 17 for 29, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, 268. He does have 10 carries for 66 yards. And then Ramondre Stevenson has 10 carries for 53 yards. Not a great first showing in the playoffs, but it is just his first showing. Y'all's thoughts overall about their team? Do y'all feel better or worse about them moving forward? Kind of where y'all at with them?
I feel still about the same. I think that a big positive you can take from this is, for one, Drake May had the postseason down performance that he had, and it's down compared to the season he's had, and yet he had 268 passing yards, he had 66 rushing yards, and he won. And so maybe the copium you could use is a potential way to explain it, but it also could just be the damn truth of this might be the worst playoff game Drake May ever plays or plays this year.
Sure.
And if that's his worst, then you think you have to like your chances going forward for New England. Now you're going to play the hottest defense in the world in the Houston Texans, who, they belt to butt, as some would say, to Aaron Rodgers. But to have that kind of performance that you had from Ramondre Stevenson, and for Drake May to get his playoff touchdown through the air, I think you're going to have some confidence for them going forward. I hope that they get just the kind of the talking in the media that they at least deserve now, because they, the knock on them all year was, they haven't beaten any playoff teams, they haven't beaten any teams with winning records. Well, they just did. They're in the divisional round. They're one of the 8 best teams in the NFL remaining. So I think we can kind of get away from that notion because they won their playoff game.
Yeah.
If they had lost to the Chargers, then it is a completely fair debate. But they beat them fairly, soundly, and now they get to host another team, C.J. Stroud and the Houston Texans next week. So I think confidence in them going forward. They deserve to be favored in that game. They fully deserve to be favored in that game because of the way that they've played this year. And I can't wait for that game because that's going to be it's such a just think of the impact of that game. It's Drake May or C.J. Stroud are going to start in an AFC championship. Drake May or C.J. Stroud, assuming Buffalo wins, are going to host an AFC championship.
Yeah.
What a potential change in those guys' stories going forward. C.J. Stroud has now won 3 playoff games in 3 straight years. Gets the road playoff game monkey off his back, so to say, and he could be 1 game from the Super Bowl, and he gets to host it against Josh Allen of the Bills, and that could completely change the way his career in year 3 for him.
Yeah,
and for Drake May, it'll be year 2 hosting maybe or on the road in an AFC Championship game. I think there's a really huge impact on those 2 quarterbacks and their stories going forward because they don't get talked about enough. Drake May got talked about a ton this year because he was an MVP potential favorite. But Stroud has gotten no praise much of the year. They've praised the defense a ton, which it deservedly so. But he has performed when he needed to in playoff games, and we'll talk about his performance here in a second. But I can't wait to see what the stories for those 2 quarterbacks and their careers are going forward with that game. It should be fun.
I agree.
Sunday afternoon.
Shall we hop into this last game?
Let's do it.
We were just talking about C.J. Stroud. His Texans traveled to Pittsburgh to face off against Aaron Rodgers' Steelers in the final game of the wild card round. And Stroud really didn't have a great day. Definitely did not protect the football well. Multiple fumbles that were like avoidable fumbles too. It was just kind of like, what are you doing? You could tell the pocket was collapsing, and instead of like maybe throwing it away or something, you just like panicked and ran into a defensive lineman. And then the pick was bad too. Now to his credit, he made a couple big-time throws as well, especially to Christian Kirk. Huge game for Christian Kirk, and he can become even bigger down the line depending on Nico Collins under concussion protocol. So, like, if you don't have Nico Collins next round, someone's got to step up. It could be Christian Kirk again. And the good news for C.J. Stroud is Woody Marks had one of his best games of the season, over 100 yards on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And the defense was so freaking good, it didn't matter what C.J. Stroud did. Multiple defensive touchdowns, just locked down like they've been almost all season. Just straight dogs. It's one of the best defenses I've ever watched play football. It's just a joy to watch. That's why this game wasn't really close, and sure, it was kind of ugly in a lot of ways. There was some bad offense. But you just can't really get mad watching the Texans' defense play football. So I still really enjoyed this game, except from the one minor thing of I'm a massive Aaron Rodgers guy, and seeing his career potentially end like that is pretty sad. But y'all's thoughts on this game? What did y'all see?
Yeah, with the physicality that they play with, that was what popped off for me. The mics were a little extra loud, it felt like.
Sure.
But it also just could have been they were hitting that damn hard. Like every single one of the tackles that Houston would have, they were bone crushing. They were running at them with speed and doing it legally, not not leading with the helmet or anything. No dirty hits necessarily throughout this game. Their defense plays with such a physicality, and that's all down the line. That's from their DBs, their safeties, their linebackers, and of course their defensive line. They just got weapons all across the board. Jalen Petrie and Will Anderson and Tommy Togiai and Kamari Lassiter has one of his better games. Derek Stingley has 1 tackle in this game. It's because Aaron Rodgers wouldn't throw his way because he's such a dynamic threat as a defensive back. For C.J. Stroud to play the way he did and put the ball in danger. He has 5 fumbles, which was an NFL postseason record in a game.
Shout out to him.
I will say 3 of them were on bad snaps, and so they count towards him, but maybe put them on the center instead. But he does have 2 fumbles that were lost in this game, and there were 2 really, really crushing fumbles. Fumbles that you cannot afford because they were near midfield. They give Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers a shorter field to work with, and with that offense only needing 2 first downs to be, in any kind of field goal or touchdown range, can't have those kind of mistakes in the postseason. The pick in the red zone is terrible. Just get down, throw it away, whatever. Points come at a premium in a game like this. The score is 30-6 at the end of it, but it was 7-6 going into the fourth quarter, and so points are at a full-on premium.
Yeah,
there were at that point, if the game had finished, there would have been as many points as there were drives. And so you can't have a pick in the red zone.
Sure.
You need to at least get the 3 points. Now, I don't expect him to make those kinds of mistakes going forward. It seems like something that could be very easy to clean up. I know D'Amico Ryans talked about it, and he said it's something that they fully expect to clean up. You could tell, like, when he walked into halftime and does his halftime interview, like, the amount of confidence that he has in C.J. Stroud to not be saying, like, in a like really mean tone of like, oh, well, we got to stop putting the football in harm's way. It's like, no, we got to stop putting the football in harm's way, and we'll be fine going forward. We have a lot of trust in him. Outside of the turnover-worthy plays and turnovers, Stroud was really, really good in this game. 21 for 32, 250. Finding deep shots to Christian Kirk, not Charlie. Jaden Higgins and Xavier Hutchinson. You lose Nico Collins to concussion, and that's a bigger story than if it had happened. Like, if it happens on Saturday, he's probably a guarantee to play this weekend. But it happens on Monday night. Typically, your concussion protocol is, funny, I do the emote as I say, 6 to 7 days.
Yeah, sure.
Unbelievable.
It hurts, but we ride.
Power through.
It could be a problem for him playing on Sunday in New England, and he's a weapon that they need, because if they don't have them, man, the receiving game is not great. The Jaden Higgins pick and the Xavier Hutchinson pick have not been great for them this year. Maybe talk about those a little bit more, because they've been kind of misses. But I want to give full credit to Woody Marks, Bulldog legend Woody Marks. I wish they'd show him. I wish they'd, with the transfer portal, I wish. He's one of those guys I wish they would show both of his colleges.
Yeah.
And that's not just like biased with like him being a Mississippi State Bulldog. It is biased. But I do wish they'd show both his colleges, because he was a Bulldog for 4 years, and then he was a USC
It was a big part
Trojan.
of his story, yeah.
And I mean, like, he's still, like, he was in a locker room interview wearing State gear. It's not like he didn't dip with ill will. He left because, like, coaching changes, and he was like, I'm going to go play for USC for a season.
He saw, I would imagine he saw what Dylan did, and it worked out really well for Dylan in Washington, and he saw that and liked it. It's been something that some people have done when they've done Sunday Night Football. They've said both their colleges. Like Jordan Addison has said Pitt and USC this year. So
shout out Jordan Addison, by the way. Got arrested this morning. So
wow. Okay. National Felon League. I can't stand this league. It gets worse and worse every single
a misdemeanor
day.
for trespassing.
Okay.
Which, like, still
fine.
shouldn't do it. But I would like to clarify, as I'm kind of like making fun / bashing the guy, I'll at least, not have it lingering out there that he could have done something much worse.
True.
It's a nonviolent crime.
Yeah.
I think, biggest takeaway from this game is what I felt multiple times throughout the game, because, of course, you see the defense perform the way it did. Man, C.J. Stroud, don't screw this up.
Yeah.
This team could win the Super Bowl. They have a Super Bowl winning defense without a doubt. And if that's why, like, the turnovers are a little bit more of a problem, because you can't, put your defense in tough spots when they give you such favorable spots, when they score 14 points for you.
Yeah.
You can't, put yourself in those positions. Got to protect the football better. And don't waste this defense, because this defense is going to be good enough to win a Super Bowl. It's a defense that's given everybody trouble all year. It's given everybody trouble all year. Mahomes had one of his worst games this season against them. Josh Allen had his worst game of the season against them. I would imagine it's going to give Drake May a little bit of trouble and Bo Nix trouble as well. So I don't waste this defense, because this team could win the Super Bowl, because that defense is that damn good. And it speaks to the job that D'Amico Ryans has done in his 3 years as head coach. 3 playoff wins, 2 playoff losses, won the division twice.
Yeah.
Rookie quarterback C.J. Stroud now in his year 3. You have the rushing troubles because you don't have Joe Mixon this year. and you have one of your best rushing performances of the season in the playoffs. A ton of credit to the Texans. They started the season 0-3. They're now 13-2 in their last 15 games.
Very well done.
And they're not talked about enough.
Yeah. On their defense, you know a little more than me. So like, it's very well known. Like the cool thing about them is like, they just line up and play ball. They don't like disguise coverages. They don't really blitz much. I'm assuming that makes it harder for like offensive play callers to like scheme up advantages because like you can't catch them leaning. You know, they're not necessarily stunning the defensive line. So if you like run the other way, they get cooked or, stuff like that. Does that make it harder to like really scheme advantages, or is it because you almost know what they're running? You can be like, I know kind of how to attack this.
I think it's really hard to attack, and they're able to do that because they're so balanced.
Yeah.
You think of football, there's 3 parts of the field. There's in between the hashes or in between the numbers, depending on who you ask, and then there's outside the hashes and outside the numbers. Think of them balanced. When you look at their defensive line, Will Anderson's on one side. Oh, Danielle Hunter's on the other side. Think about their DBs. Derek Stingley's on one side. Oh, Kamari Lassiter's on the other side. Up the middle, they have elite linebackers and Aziz Al-Shir, and Henry To'oTo'o has had an excellent season. And then even at the safety position, you have Jalen Petrie, and then the 6th-round pick who got hurt in this game has been really good. Jalen Reed, sorry, that's his name, has been really good this year. And even Kalen Bullock, who's been playing safety this year.
Yeah.
They're so balanced.
Sure.
And so there's not a weakness to attack. There's not, sorry, Emmanuel, but there's not an Emmanuel Forbes to attack on one side of the field. There's not a weak link. You can't go away from Sauce Gardner's side.
Yeah.
Well, Kamari Lassiter's over there, and he plays one of his best games. So I think that's what makes them really hard to attack. And I think because of that, it gives them a liberty to not have to disguise and blitz because they can rush with 4.
You don't have to help anyone.
You don't have to help anyone. You don't have to put you can put your DBs on islands and feel very comfortable with it. Jalen Petrie is one of those perfect hybrid safeties where he can come up and play in the box. He can come up and blitz, and then he can just drop back and play a deep safety.
A Jalen Petrie hit would kill me. Like, I'm convinced I would be dead.
And that's with the Guardian cap. It's supposed to soften the blow.
It doesn't. Not at all. Last thing on the Texans before we move on, I just want to read a couple of stats from this game. And by move on, I mean move on to the Steelers side. Steelers are 2 of 14 on 3rd down. They only amassed 175 total offensive yards. And they had 2.9 yards per pass on the day. Just completely shut down. Completely shut down. On the Steelers side of things, I can't really say this is too surprising. This has been their MO, limp into the playoffs and then losing the playoffs because you're really not a playoff quality team. I thought they'd put up a little more of a fight, but if you're gonna let the Texans defense score 14 points, like if you told me that pregame, I would have taken away all I think the Steelers are gonna put up a fight.
Yeah.
Notion just because the Steelers were never going to score that many points anyway. So you gift them 14, it's GG's. And yeah, the score is 30-6, but the Steelers did put up a fight for a while. Like you mentioned, it was 7-6 for a long time. It just fell apart at the end. Probably the end of Aaron Rodgers' career. I think if they kept Tomlin, he maybe would have considered coming back, but I don't think he's going to go kind of shop around again or maybe come back under a new regime. Mm-hmm. Never say never, People will talk about retirement all the time, and then when push comes to shove, they're like, I want to go one more year. But I think the odds greatly decreased with the fact that Tomlin got fired. You also
it does feel kind of like angle ball, where you play that last game, and then you realize. So in Jackson, instead of playing 4 quarters, you just play games to 7, and you play till everyone wants to be done. And I feel like in Jackson, we traditionally will play like 3 or 4 games, and then a bunch of people will leave, and there'll be like 12 of us left. And we're like, let's play one more. And that last game sucks. I kind of feel like that's what's going to... I think that Aaron Rodgers will be done this year. I think he's done. But if he comes back, I wouldn't be surprised if it comes back and it's a very underwhelming, like, regret-filled season.
Maybe. I mean, the fact that I know he threw a pick 6. That was literally his last pass attempt of his career to date. But he did have an impressive season of getting 10 wins, taking the Steelers to the playoffs. Most people didn't think he could do that. And for the angle ball comparison, it's like pickup basketball, just for people that don't necessarily know what angle ball is. Like, you get, you convince yourself to play one more and it ends up not really being that fun because everyone's tired, no one's playing defense, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, I could see him convincing himself to come back.
Yeah, I doubt he'll play defense. So the analogy holds.
It won't go well. But thoughts on their game as a whole? We can get into the Mike Tomlin firing after or segue into it. But just not a very inspiring game from their offense.
I think if there was one thing at halftime that gave me confidence for Pittsburgh in the second half is that what I was seeing I thought was like, no way that's sustainable. And even with how good Houston had been defensively, at halftime, Rodgers and the Steelers were 0 for 6 on third down, and the Texans were 7 for 8 on third down. And so I thought, and Mike Tomlin mentioned it when he came out of the locker room in the second half, that was where they needed to be better. I thought, no way that's going to continue. Like, even with how good Houston had been defensively, and it was. Houston went 3 for 7 in the second half, and Pittsburgh went 2 for 8 in the second half on third down. Yeah. So it continued to be a thing that leaned towards Houston. Part of me wants to give a ton of credit to Aaron Rodgers, and it is because, you didn't necessarily expect him to be here. They were not the division favorites by a long margin. They were the third odds-on favorites to start the year. Ravens were the Super Bowl favorites, if you don't remember, and Cincinnati was, by far and away the second favorite to win the division. And so for them to win the division, it should be celebrated. But at the same time, that's 3 straight years now that Pittsburgh has gone 10-7 and lost in the wild card round. This one just happened to be at home with them winning the division. It is Pittsburgh purgatory, as we've said multiple times on the pod. It is going to continue to be a revolving door at quarterback. And I think that, there's not a lot of fits for Rodgers. And so I agree with you, Jack. I think if Tomlin was still there, it would have been pretty easy for him to maybe come back for another year and add an offensive weapon, add a receiver to go along with DK. Go ahead.
Minnesota.
Maybe.
There's a chance.
Very good defense. I think if Flores leaves...
I like it, actually.
If Flores leaves, I don't like it as much because Flores is an incredible DC, and so I think that defense takes a step back because I think he's getting head coaching interviews this go-around.
The Commanders also really want him to be their DC.
But if Flores doesn't leave, you get that defense returning, and then you get Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison. Maybe you figure out running back in the offseason, or you go draft one in the second or third round, but...
My one qualm, because I agree with JP, I don't hate it, is I'm not sure that O'Connell, I was right.
Kevin O'Connell
would commit to Aaron Rodgers being the starter for this season, and I don't think Aaron Rodgers would go somewhere where he's not guaranteed to be the starter.
That's fair.
Like, I think they would want to bring someone in to maybe compete with J.J. McCarthy, or maybe
either that, or
you play some and then McCarthy takes over. But I don't know if Aaron Rodgers is going to want to do that.
I think I could see O'Connell being like, JJ's still not ready. I think he can be ready, and sitting behind Aaron Rodgers for a year. Like, J.J. McCarthy hasn't sat healthy for a year, if you think about it, right? He was injured for last season when he was behind Sam Darnold, and then he comes back healthy and plays this year. Maybe you think, all right, Patrick Mahomes sat for a year behind a healthy Alex Smith, not due to injury, so he was in practices. He was getting to kind of walk through that with him. Other guys have sat healthy. I just drawn a blank on all the stories. But, that's a thing that has worked in the past. Maybe that's the pitch.
Yeah, I do think it is tough when he's going into year 3 and you potentially would sit him for a year because you kind of would like to know what you have with him at this point as his contract is starting to run up.
You would need
he's getting older. I think they kind of really want clarity on that situation. But I think that just quick, running through all the teams in my head, that maybe is the most likely landing point.
I got 2 more.
Which would be wild given that Favre also ended up at Minnesota for his last... Oh.
Yeah. What are your 2 more?
Hold up, let me think.
They involve a specific thing has to happen for both of them, but I got 2 more.
The Browns?
Actually, I got 3 more.
It's not the Browns, right?
Not Cleveland. No.
Okay.
A specific thing has to happen.
Oh no, are you thinking the Rams if Stafford retires?
No, but I'll go add that to a 4th team. If Stafford retires, maybe.
The Cardinals?
No. Okay. You got to think teams that are ready to win now. The Cardinals are not ready to win now.
But you could just bring someone in to start and just fart around. Teams that are ready to win now.
But Rodgers isn't going to do that. Rodgers is going to go somewhere ready to win.
If I'm a coach, I don't know if I'm convincing myself that Rodgers is the guy to help me win now in a serious way.
He took a team with one wide receiver and got him 10 wins.
Yeah, but it's also like the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like they're not like the reason Mike Tomlin gets fired is because it's like fake contention, and that's what they keep doing.
I mean, I guess if you think about it, Aaron, like they really only won one game.
If you're really like, let me go. If I'm really thinking I want to make a legit run at this thing, I just want to kind of contend and have a fun regular season. I'm not thinking I'm bringing in Aaron Rodgers.
And they only won one game because 9 is the floor, so they won one game.
Correct.
That's not 1-8 is not great.
So you're thinking of teams that want to win now that potentially need a quarterback.
Yeah, I got 3. I like the Rams one. I'll add it, but I got 3 more.
Which if I'm the Rams, I'd rather have Stafford. But
like I said, something has to happen. Stafford has to retire.
But you've got another one that something has to happen.
All 3 of them, something has to happen.
Well, I was thinking like
Patrick Mahomes determines he can't come back from his ACL this season.
No, that would make no sense.
Okay, I mean, are the
Josh Allen?
You thinking the Dolphins are going to convince themselves they're ready to win now?
No, it's not the Dolphins. No way.
Buffalo, that wouldn't make any sense.
I know. I'm just saying. I'll lock back in. It's not the Patriots, Dolphins, Jets, or Bills. It is not the Bengals.
Are you talking about like maybe the Colts because Daniel Jones isn't going to be back and they're going to want to roll
that's
with
a good
Aaron
one.
Rodgers?
That's a good one.
That is one. Daniel Jones doesn't resign because he's signed a 1-year contract, or he's not healthy. But it would be mainly Daniel Jones doesn't resign, and they add Rodgers with Jonathan Taylor and the receiving weapons of Michael Pittman and Alec Pierce.
I don't hate that.
And Shane Steichen.
How many more do you have?
Indianapolis, you also think like Pat McAfee's there. He gets to be near his buddies and Pat McAfee.
Sure.
I got 2 more. They are 2 teams that play this coming weekend, and they play each other. San Francisco and Seattle. Brock Purdy breaks his leg, can't play next year.
Well, that would do.
Mac Jones signs somewhere else. Rodgers with that run game and Kyle Shanahan, he's been linked to San Francisco multiple times. And then Seattle, Sam Darnold breaks his leg. And they think same thing. Run game, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Cooper Kupp.
Well, then I'll raise you. I've got 1, 2, 3. I've got 6 more. All right. Quarterback blank goes roller skating with significant other, falls and breaks both forearms, out for the season.
People don't really roller skate these days.
Sorry, that was the first safe
who?
act. Trevor Lawrence.
That fit doesn't make any sense to me.
Why? The Jags have the ability to win now.
They do, but they also don't have, I think, the defense to par. And he has young weapons there. He doesn't like young weapons, young unestablished weapons.
I think the problem with all these theoretical ones, aside from someone has to get hurt, but like even the Colts one is the
Colts one actually makes sense.
The overwhelming desire / like panic is like it's always like we have to find our QB, we have to find our QB, we have to find our QB, we have to find our QB. And I think Mike Tomlin and that front office there is going to be one of the few places that is like pretty fine with just kind of taking we'll take this 1 year at a time stopgap. Now you could say the Colts just did it with Daniel Jones, but then you'd be doing that again, and then like you're still going to have to kind of find your QB again next year. Because also you're just not bringing in an app. I mean, if I was getting Aaron Rodgers for a year of Aaron Rodgers in 2017, I'd be like, well, yeah, obviously everyone should be all over it. But it's just,
yeah, I think Colts make sense, and I think the other team that I said that I can't remember now also makes sense.
Vikings,
thank you.
Sure.
Because I do think those are 2 teams that have the roster to compete as a like top 6 NFL team.
Sure.
Yep.
And I think that overrides we got to find our quarterback, because the reality is if you keep doing that and ignore the fact that you have a great roster at the time, you lose that roster.
Well, I'm just
saying,
saying,
guys age out, guys contracts, you can't extend everybody.
Daniel Jones gets hurt, and the Colts don't really win more games. So maybe it was Daniel Jones all along. I mean, that roster, are we really sure that roster is all that good with how they collapsed down the stretch?
It's also Sauce Gardner thing. He had the worst record in the NFL this year.
And Aaron Rodgers may hate Sauce Gardner. I mean, they have history in the Jets.
He won 2 games.
2 games. That's what it was.
Worst record than the Raiders alone.
Sure. All right, let's pivot and talk about Mike Tomlin real quick and then get out of here. He got fired. Well, I take it back. He did not get fired.
Nope.
He stepped down, and the reports I saw kind of made it sound like he's stepping down to take a break. So don't even expect him to be like in any coaching search talk this year. It'd be like a Sean Payton situation as well. Someone compare it to. He would step down, maybe take a break, and then
maybe Bill Belichick. He goes down to the college level.
Maybe get traded next year somewhere. Okay. But now obviously Pittsburgh has to fill their job, and we can kind of talk about. I think it was the right decision. I'm totally fine with it. It's a risk in terms of like you may end up sucking, and at least with Mike Tomlin, you have the security of knowing you weren't going to suck. But sometimes sucking is better for having the hope of being better. And like just kind of seeing Steelers fans on Twitter, the couple I know personally, they just didn't really have much hope or joy watching this team because they kind of knew it was going to happen. There was no like, this is our year excitement, or hey, we're bad, but at least we're bad. It means we're going to get this really good draft pick, and we can get this exciting quarterback or this really fun wide receiver or this like sick edge rusher. It was just kind of like a lot of apathy. And so I think with the point the apathy had gotten so strong, I'm totally fine with moving on and trying to inject some excitement, even if it comes with the risk of being bad.
Yeah, I'm fully for it. I think we talked about it at the beginning of the season that when talking about signing Aaron Rodgers, it didn't make much sense to us because, and then also not drafting Shador.
Sure.
They we're just going to be in the same spot again. Like there was no world where this team was going to be 13-3 and be maybe the 1 seed and be in contention for an AFC championship. This was always going to be their ceiling, was a playoff appearance,
sure,
and a playoff loss. They now 3 years in a row have lost in the wildcard round and gone 10-7 in all 3 years, and that's with 3 different quarterbacks: Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, and Kenny Pickett. Nothing has changed, and so they've been in purgatory, as we said.
Yeah.
So I agree with you, Jack, and I felt that same way at the beginning of the year. That why not just go and be bad? We talked about, we knew at least, we didn't know who the quarterbacks were going to be, but we did at least think the quarterbacks that we were getting in this year's draft were going to be pretty good. Now those quarterbacks were Cade Klubnik and Drew Aller at the beginning of the year. Now they've turned into Fernando Mendoza and Ty Simpson and Dante Moore. But we did think that quarterback class, or this coming quarterback class, was going to be good. Arch Manning was also part of that list.
I thought it was going to be great. I was very wrong.
And that's why, too, like we talked about, you may be waiting to get your QB this year. This is a prime example of there's just no certainty in sports, especially not with prospects. So, like, expecting something down the line, like waiting in that sense is typically not the right idea because it could just burn you.
Yeah.
Now they're going to pick in the teens again. I think they're the 19th overall pick. Although the 3, at least especially if Dante Moore declares the 3 good quarterbacks, ready quarterbacks are going to be gone. So I think it's...
You don't think Ty Simpson could fall this far?
He could. But at the same time, rookie head coach, rookie quarterback, sure. I don't expect anything right off the bat. But it may be better for them. Mike Tomlin never had a losing season there in
which is
Pittsburgh.
Very impressive, by the way. Shout out to Mike Tomlin for that.
He had 3 8-8 seasons, and then a bunch of 10-8 or 10-7 and 9-6 and 9-7 seasons. Won the Super Bowl in year 2 with Ben Roethlisberger. Went to the Super Bowl again in year 4. Lost Aaron Rodgers, and then in 9 years they've lost 7 playoff games. That is, they got to get it done in the postseason. They haven't for a really, really long time, and so I'm completely fine with them making, or Tomlin stepping down, or whatever it want to be, this kind of move. The stepping down is going to help them because it will allow them to, like you said, Jack, maybe trade him next season or at the end of next season and get a pick for it. Saints got a 3rd-round pick for Sean Payton, so it ended up kind of working out a little bit for them. We, of course, at least for a couple years, wish Sean Payton was still there. We'll see on Kellen Moore. But they need to make some kind of change. I'll quote it again. It's actually the first time I've quoted it on this podcast. I've said it a bunch of times over Christmas break when talking about football with family and random people that are family. It's usually a good thing, and it's something you should do. Every 10 years, you should change leadership. It's why, the U.S. works on 8 years is the max, because more than that, those kinds of leadership qualities may turn into bad things. And regardless of result, usually 10 years makes some kind of change in leadership. Hear a different voice, hear a different opinion. Harbaugh or Tomlin, both of them coached there for 18, 19 years. And so eventually you're going to need a change in leadership. And funny enough, 9 years ago, 10 years of being the Steelers is when he started losing all of his playoff games. Funny enough, for John Harbaugh, 9 or 8 years ago is when he still had Joe Flacco, and 3 years prior to that is when he won the Super Bowl. And now he's had Lamar Jackson. He's done nothing. He's won 3 playoff games with one of the best quarterbacks ever. So it is something to be said that eventually you need to make some kind of change the voice, change the opinion, change the message. Pittsburgh, year after year after year, just run it back. Oh, let's bring Cameron Hayward back for another year. Oh, let's bring T.J. Watt back for another year. Mike Tomlin back for another year. Same special teams coordinator for another year. And it's helped them be consistent. It's raised their floor, but it's eliminated the ceiling, as Sanders talked about earlier. They won one more game than their floor this year, which was 9-8. So I'm fully there for the move. It makes them really interesting, come the draft in this offseason.
100%.
I think it might rule out the Kyler Murray take that I had for pretty much all this season. That's still out there, but I think it's a little less likely now.
Sure.
I think they should draft a quarterback, or I guess maybe start Will Howard next year, who they still have on the roster. But it is the right move. They need to make some kind of move, some kind of change in leadership. This would be the 4th head coach since 1969 for Pittsburgh.
Truly insane.
They've been the benchmark in terms of consistency at the head coaching and leadership position, but they haven't been the benchmark in winning. And for that brand, that's a problem. And so it was time.
I agree. Anything to add, Sanders? Or?
Nope.
Cool. Well, let's wrap it up. Happy to see you, Chromie. You're I don't know if I'd say C.J. Stroud is him as much as I'd say the Texans' defense is him. And also, you're a Burger King Beef Wellington saying did make the podcast today, and you got credit for it. So shout out to you for that. But yeah, anything else to add, or should we close it out?
Let's wrap it up.
And we'll be back Thursday, right, to preview the national championship and then the divisional round of the.
Yeah, I may have a basketball game that day, so we'll figure out how to. Yes, I do. I believe so.
What
we'll
time
figure
is
out. Let's see. My calendar's not loading, so let me go to the actual schedule.
Cool.
It'll be like 6:30.
Sure. Well, we can figure it out then.
Yeah.
Even if we have to do it after, that's not too bad.
5:30.
5:30 tip-off.
Then we can definitely do it after and not be too big of an issue.
Big game. Number 5 Vanderbilt coming to town. I realized Vanderbilt was all the way.
I'm gonna go to the game.
Yeah, it should be a good one.
You come in tonight, I assume.
Yeah, I'm going to get in line here in a second.
Smart.
I'm curious to see what kind of showing we'll have.
I think a good one.
Sold out.
We're 2-1 in conference play.
I see what you mean by showing. Not we as fans, we as the team.
I think he meant we as fans.
I meant as fans, yeah.
Well, it's sold out.
I saw the Ole Miss game was sold out. I didn't realize the Alabama game was sold out.
Yeah, and Kamario Taylor was on Twitter looking for 5 tickets.
I saw that. He got him. He got him.
Oh,
Shout out the fans.
Of course, QB1 is getting his 5 tickets.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks.
He could show up to the line and be like, "Hey, can I have your ticket?" And someone would be like, "Yeah, I'll leave. Have a good game."
Yeah. Okay, Kamario.
It's an important night. Chris Jans has never beat Alabama.
It's a thorn. I will be
4.5 point.
I will be in attendance as well.
I'm surprised it's only 4.5. Alabama was good this year, right?
They're 18th, not as good as they have been.
Okay.
You're coming to play in Starkville. I feel like
which wins at its best. Playing in Starkville has been really hard.
Yeah.
I didn't know if you were saying that facetiously or not.
No, I was being serious. I feel like Jans does a pretty good job of protecting home court.
Yeah.
Bama's also on a 2-game losing streak.
So
Vanderbilt and Texas.
Yeah, the Texas loss is bad. The Vandy one not so much. But yeah, thanks for everyone who tuned in.
I don't know. Texas is a really good team.
Yeah.
Horns down. I mean, you're right. I mean, that's a big win for State. It was
that's
a massive
huge
win for State to go get that one on the road.
That's a tournament team.
It's our best win of the year.
I'll close this out now. Thanks to everyone who tuned in. It means a lot, all the support. And we'll be back for you all Thursday to preview a bunch of NFL games. And who knows what else will pop up. But, well, the national championship as well. But aside from that, who knows what else will pop up. The national championship just pops up.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks.
Oh, shoot. That's this weekend.
And see you all Thursday. Peace.
See ya.